Chapter 882. The red lightning struck down with crackling sounds. There were countless electric currents running through it. Dmo Xian had already turned around, stretched out his hand to hold Yiqing Luo's slender waist, raised his palm to condense profound qi, and was about to meet the lightning. A shocking scene happened. The red lightning, after touching the silver silk shield that Yiqing Luo had formed, it actually flickered slightly and the electric current disappeared directly. The surging red light and airflow in the surroundings also stopped at this moment. Everything returned to peace. It was as if the pressure of the divine relic had never appeared. Yiqing Luo looked at the silver silk shield in front of her and slowly withdrew the silver silk. She stared at the entrance of the red light, which could accommodate one person in a daze, with a surprised look. What is going on? Could it be? Her guess was true. The divine relic summoned her and acknowledged her. So, when she came to meet the divine relic withdrew all the protective energy. A finger flicked on her forehead. Dmo Xian sighed helplessly. If I knew that the divine relic had acknowledged you, I wouldn't have wasted so much effort to rush up. So tiring. Sure enough, this meant that the divine relic had acknowledged her. Looking at the faint outline in the red light, Yiqing Luo's brows did not ease because of the divine relic's approval. Why would the divine relic approve of me? There were only 4 of them who entered the sealed space. She was the weakest among the 4 of them. No matter what, the divine relic would not take a fancy to her. If anything, it should be approved by Dmo Xian. It's very likely because the divine relic is male. Dmo Xian held his chin and answered seriously. Yiqing Luo. Divine relic was also divided into male and female. Was he kidding her? Hurry up and get the divine relic. Dmo Xian pinched her little face, his lips curved into an extremely gentle arc, his tone pampering her. Yiqing Luo rubbed her face, saw some signs of fatigue in his eyes, and knew that he was like this because of her, so she did not rebuke him for pinching her face. Instead, she obediently walked towards the entrance of the red light. Yiqing Luo hadn't noticed that after she turned around, Dmo Xian's smiling lips had slowly faded a little. His inky pupils gazed deeply at Yiqing Luo's back view. There was a profound look in his eyes. It seemed to contain some complicated emotions. After a long time, he stretched out his hand and pressed his finger against the space between his eyebrows. He let out a long sigh that was so soft that it was almost inaudible. Listening carefully, there was no longer any sound. After passing through the red light entrance, Yiqing Luo's vision fell onto the only stone table in the narrow space. The stone table was not big, about the size of a chess table. The surface of the stone table was covered with a thin layer of white cool air. When Zhang Xian got closer, he could feel an extremely cold aura invading his body. A shelf made of the same material was placed on top of the stone table. Wisps of cold air floated around it. On the stone frame, there was a string of, it looked like an ornament. That's right, accessories. It was a ring carved from jade. It was different from the profound phoenix ring that Dmo Xian had given her. This ring was about the width of 2 fingers put together. The pattern on it was extremely complicated and strange. It looked a bit like a cherry blossom pattern. Faintly, there was a red light flowing on the ring. This was a divine relic. It looked like it had a sense of history passed down from ancient times. But, this divine relic, did it have any special power? It's actually the azure water ring. Chapter 883. Blue Water Ring. Azure Dew Bracelet. From Old Man Song's tone, he knew that there was definitely a connection between the two. No wonder you were acknowledged by the divine artifact. Old Man Song stroked his shining white beard as his spirit body flashed and circled to Yiqing Luo's side. He leaned over and stared at the ring on her palm. This ring, could it be a set with the Azure Dew bracelet? Old Man Song nodded with a smile on his face. His tone was unable to conceal his excitement. I forgot to tell you that there is indeed a set of Azure water accessories. However, the Azure water bracelet isn't included. A set of Azure water accessories. Then why wasn't the Azure Dew bracelet a part of the set? This old man was born in the Azure Dew bracelet. Before I became an artifact spirit, the Azure Dew bracelet already existed. As for the origin of the Azure Dew bracelet, this old man is not too clear. Old Man Song was in a good mood, and he became more talkative. According to this old man's memories, the previous owner of the Azure Dew bracelets probably only wanted to forge the Azure Dew bracelets. In the end, because there were too many materials, he forged another set of ornaments. But, Old Man Song paused. The Azure Dew bracelet is the main magic artifact. The amount of profound energy and spiritual energy poured into it is much greater than that set of ornaments. That was to say, the reason why the Azure Dew bracelet was able to contain Old Man Song and had the Purgatory Pagoda within it was because the original owner of the Azure Dew bracelet had once spent a great deal of spiritual energy to refine it. Although the other Azure Water series accessories could be called divine artifacts, they couldn't compare to the Azure Dew bracelet. And because she had signed a contract with the Azure Dew bracelet, her body contained the energy of the Azure Dew bracelet. Thus, after sensing the existence of the Azure Dew bracelet, the Azure Dew bracelet took the initiative to summon her, and even acknowledged her as its new master. Thinking about it this way, it did seem to make sense. Since you've already encountered the first Azure Dew ornament, then the following 4 kinds of ornaments, you should also gather them. Old Man Song's spirit body circled around Yiqing Luo once before entering the Azure Dew bracelet. Find the other 4 accessories. Was he going to summon the dragon god? These were all divine artifacts. A ring had once caused the sect masters of the 4 major sects to mobilize so many people to seal it. The other accessories were obviously not that easy to find. A single divine artifact isn't that powerful. Of course, it's a great help to you now. Old Man Song explained. After gathering all 5 Azure Water accessories, the divine weapon's power will undergo an earth-shattering change. Yiqing Luo gripped the Azure Dew ring tightly as she felt the flowing red light above and sighed lightly. Azure Water accessories, a set of 5. Let's not talk about the power of the divine tool. Just for the sake of Old Man Song, the other ornaments must be retrieved. That brat is still waiting for you. Go out first. If you're any later, he'll directly rush in. Old Man Song seemed to have sensed the situation outside and laughed in a low voice. Dmo Xian would indeed do so. Even if the divine artifact acknowledged her. There was no guarantee that nothing would happen. Yiqing Luo wore the ring on her finger and immediately walked out from the entrance. Just as she stepped out of the mouth of the red light, she crashed into Dmo Xian's arms. Obviously, Dmo Xian was prepared to enter the red light entrance. Are you alright? Dmo Xian's gaze swiftly swept across Yiqing Luo's body to ascertain that she wasn't injured and his heart, which was hanging in suspense, finally calmed down. Yiqing Luo shook the ring on her fingertip. This is a divine artifact. Dmo Xian recognized it at a glance. Azure Dew ring. I didn't expect that the divine artifact sealed here would be the Azure Dew ring. You also know about this ring. Yiqing Luo touched the ring. She didn't sense any special power on the ring. Was it really a divine artifact? Idiot, you should first contract with the Azure Dew ring. Dmo Xian helplessly laughed and reached out to hold her little hand. With a sweep of his fingertip, a drop of fresh blood condensed on his fingertip. Chapter 884. Yiqing Luo didn't feel any pain. There was no trace of a wound on his fingers. Her heart warmed. Dmo Xian didn't even want to see the blood and wounds of the contract on her body. He would rather expend his profound qi to extract a drop of her blood. Although, it was just a casual action. But Yiqing Luo could feel that Dmo Xian cherished her. Her lips curled upwards as her charming eyes were filled with deep affection, smiling as she gazed at Dmo Xian's peerless side profile. No matter from which angle, this man, appeared handsome, profound, and calm. It was only when she felt a burning sensation on her fingertips that she came back to her senses. Ah! Subconsciously, he wanted to retract his hand. Her wrist was tightly locked by Dmo Xian. Little Luo is so infatuated with this face of mine. Dmo Xian's fingertips caressed her palm as he teasingly curled his lips and looked at her sideways. Yiqing Luo's cheeks flushed red as she stared at him in embarrassment. The man's low and deep laughter could be heard, as if he was extremely happy. Soon after, Dmo Xian's large palm covered her head and slowly slid down to the fringe on her forehead, rubbing it. If you want to look at me, wait until we return to the room tonight. I'll let you look at me for as long as you want. But for now, it's better to concentrate your attention on the azure dew ring. Shameless. Yiqing Luo's face turned even redder as she slapped his palm away in shame and indignation, as a light snort came out from her nose. Only then did he place his gaze on the azure water ring. Within the azure dew bracelet, old man Tsang covered his eyes. He held his forehead and sighed, shaking his head. Ayaya, a girl's home is a girl's home. If I hadn't seen this shy girl with my own eyes, I wouldn't have believed that this girl with a face like a peach blossom and eyes filled with shyness was Luoya. If it wasn't for Dmo Xian, I'm afraid I would have treated Las Luo as a man. After Yiqing Luo's blood fused into the azure aqua ring, the red lightning on the ring increased its speed. Red light quickly blossomed from the ring, like waves of red ripples. The cherry blossom patterns carved on the ring seemed to move with the wind, and petals swirled in the air. He didn't know if it was an illusion. Yiqing Luo could actually smell the fragrance of cherry blossoms. In the blink of an eye, it disappeared. As the cherry blossoms fluttered in the air, the red electric current seemed to flow with ancient lines. The scorching heat burned her fingers. After the contract, the power of the ring will be yours to use. Dmo Xian looked at Yiqing Luo's eyes filled with joy, as his charming eyes sparkled with a sparkling luster, as the corners of his lips curled into an arc. After forming the contract, Yiqing Luo could distinctly feel a powerful force unceasingly flowing and pouring into her heart, lingering around the nurturing profound jade heart surroundings. However, this powerful energy did not fuse with the profound heart jade. However, it continued to linger in the surroundings, as if it was causing a backlash against the profound heart jade. If Yiqing Luo could see the current her, she would definitely be shocked. The current Yiqing Luo was enveloped in a ball of red glow. It made her extremely beautiful face look even more beautiful than before. Especially that pair of long and narrow eyes, under the embellishment of the red glow, seemed to emit a charm that could steal one's soul. Let's go and retrieve your profound jade heart. Dmo Xian's palm had been embracing Yiqing Luo's slender waist, while the other hand held her slender wrist. He naturally sensed that something was wrong with Yiqing Luo's heart. The two turned around and left the sealed space. Perhaps Yiqing Luo and the azure aqua ring had already formed a blood contract. 3,000 spaces didn't show any other unusual movements. The two had just walked out of 3,000 spaces when they saw a profound practitioner dressed in a black robe, even his head was covered tightly, quietly heading towards the place where the giant beast totem had split open. Chapter 885. Dark Forces People. Yiqing Luo recognized this attire at one glance. As expected, there were still people from the dark forces in King Ling's tomb. Dmo Xian released Yiqing Luo's slender waist as his purple robe swept, and he had already appeared in front of the black-robed man as he stretched out his hand to stop the black-robed man's intention to snatch the profound heart jade. The black-robed man didn't expect that they would turn back so coincidentally. Dmo Xian dangerously narrowed his long peach blossom eyes as he gazed at the black-robed man's hand. Before he could describe it, a strong airwave turned into a turbulent line with imposing manner as it attacked towards the black-robed man's hand. The black-robed man's reaction was extremely fast. As Dmo Xian neared, he swiftly retracted his hand and retreated a few steps. After stabilizing himself, the black-robed man immediately turned around and was about to leave. This black-robed man was the only clue to the dark forces. He was also the medium to release the profound yin qi in Long Yunzhan's body. How would Dmo Xian let the black-robed man leave? Without any hesitation, he chased after the black-robed man. Since you dare to snatch Lil Luo's special profound heart jade, why run? Dmo Xian's rosy lips curled up slightly as his eyes were covered with frost. That black-robed man's footsteps became faster and faster. Only, how could the black-robed man's speed compare to Dmo Xian? But within a few breaths, the black-robed man had already been stopped by Dmo Xian. Dark Forces people. That dog shit lord asked you to take Lil Luo's profound heart jade. Dmo Xian stood in front of the black-robed man as his voice was gentle as though he was having an ordinary chat, calm and indifferent. The man hidden under the black robe seemed to tremble. But he still didn't say a word. Dmo Xian lost his patience as his 5 fingers locked onto the black-robed man's neck as his fingertips flicked lightly. The black robe slid down from the black-robed man's head. Creak, a crisp cracking sound could be heard. The black robe fell off and revealed a set of ghastly white bones under the black robe. The moment the black robe was ripped off, the white bones that were used to prop up the frame broke. Substitution forbidden technique. Dmo Xian's expression changed slightly as he speedily threw the white bone in his hand out. He raised his eyes towards Yiqing Luo, and as he dashed towards her, he cried out sharply, "Lil Luo, be careful." Yiqing Luo stood by the side of the huge beast's mouth, observing their battle situation without blinking. Dmo Xian lifted up his black robe and she saw the scene of eerie white bones underneath. Old Man Tsang reminded him in his mind. This was also a type of forbidden technique called the substitution forbidden technique. By consuming a large amount of profound jade heart's energy and absorbing a large amount of demonic energy, he could use the simplest of things to create his own substitute. After listening to Old Man Tsang's explanation, Yiqing Luo immediately withdrew from the huge beast's seal, and with a fierce slap of her palm, the huge beast which had split open once again closed up. Her opponent's goal was her profound heart jade. The profound heart jade that had already disappeared for so long. With great difficulty, he finally saw his profound heart jade. How could Yiqing Luo possibly allow the Dark Forces people to take away her profound heart jade? She needed her profound jade heart. He needed his own profound heart jade. The moment the giant beast closed up, a black shadow appeared behind it. A gloomy and cold aura attacked from behind. Bam bam bam, that black-robed man's original body directly struck out several palm winds. Bursts of palm winds landed on the rock wall which was covered with totems, causing the surroundings to shake endlessly. The ground shook, but this sealed ground didn't have a single piece of gravel falling. That huge beast which had opened its bloody mouth and stuck out its scarlet-red tongue didn't suffer any damage at all. However, the young lady who originally thought that she would be smashed into a meat patty under the palm winds. After the dust dispersed, there wasn't a single figure to be seen. The black-robed man reacted, turned his head and swiftly retreated, sticking close to the huge beast's rock wall. Chapter 886. The glower flame fan waved at her fingertips and a strong red glow struck towards the black-robed man's face. Things had already exceeded the black-robed man's expectations. You who have lost your profound jade heart still have such an agile reaction. A hoarse ear-piercing voice was heard from under the black robe. It was an old man's voice, and the words he said seemed to be uttered with great difficulty. Following that, the black-robed man's figure turned into an afterimage as he dodged Yi Qing Luo's attack. A blood blade suffused with profound qi shot out from under the black-robed man's robe. Its imposing manner was like a swift and violent arrow leaving the bow. Yi Qing Luo's 5 fingers gripped the glower flame fan tightly as a surge of profound qi surged from her body towards the feather fan. She took the opportunity to open the feather fan and swept up thousands of huge waves as she met those blood blades with ease. The two forces collided in midair. The black profound qi instantly wrapped around Yi Qing Luo's profound qi. Yi Qing Luo's eyes flashed as the feather fan shot out a few strands of silver silk. The silver light flickered as it densely blossomed. Like a sharp blade, it sliced the mysterious qi into several pieces with a crackling sound. Up in midair, the two waves of power instantly dissipated. The two of them stood face to face. The black-robed man also became serious. Yi Qing Luo was much more difficult to deal with than he had imagined. How many people from the dark forces are there in the Ling King's tomb? Yi Qing Luo narrowed her eyes as she looked coldly at the black-robed man. Her peripheral vision saw Dmo Xian standing beside the huge beast totem with its bloody mouth wide open, looking as though he was watching by the side. She knew that he was prepared to let her handle the matter herself. The black-robed man also noticed that the powerful man had no intention to make a move. He then put his heart at ease as he laughed sinisterly. There aren't many people, but it's enough to make you unable to leave the Ling King's tomb. Do you think you can leave? Yi Qing Luo scoffed disapprovingly as her eyes were filled with coldness. The black-robed man was fearless. Silly lass, spouting nonsense just because you have some tricks up your sleeves. I want to see how you are going to stop me from leaving. The black-robed man's figure charged towards Yi Qing Luo once again. His target wasn't Yi Qing Luo, but the profound jade heart on the huge beast's scarlet tongue. As long as he took away the profound heart jade and left, his mission would be considered complete. Boom! A loud sound rang out. Yi Qing Luo opened her feather fan without any hesitation, not caring that Dmo Xian was still standing beside the huge beast, as she launched the next wave of attack. His imposing Xian qi continued to bombard the area. How could the black-robed man still have the chance to approach the profound heart jade? Moreover, the black-robed man absolutely believed it. If he were to touch a single strand of hair on Yi Qing Luo, that powerful man standing under the huge beast's mouth would not hesitate to tear him into pieces. The black-robed man clenched his fists tightly. Without the two of them noticing, he cut his palm with one of his fingers. A drop of blood enveloped by the mysterious qi slowly melted into the ground. The ball of mysterious qi that was wrapped around him also dissipated. Yi Qing Luo set off a strong airwave, blowing the black robe on top of the man's head down. It revealed a pair of extremely sinister and strange eyes. It was like an ice-cold poisonous snake. The corners of the black-robed man's mouth curled into a strange, cold smile, as though he was ridiculing Yi Qing Luo's ignorance. Yi Qing Luo seemed to have realized something, as the cold glint in her eyes deepened. The attacks from the glower flame fan in her hands became even more ferocious. The enchanting red aura's pressure rose steadily. That azure dew ring on her fingertip, following the rise of Yi Qing Luo's imposing manner, also gradually emitted a scorching hot feeling. At her heart, a strong Xian qi started to surge. In a split second, numerous silver threads intertwined with that Xian qi, densely shooting out in all directions. Chapter 887. The black-robed man's lips twitched in disdain as his peripheral vision kept observing Dmo Xian. seeing that he still had no intention to make a move. That smirk of ridicule on his lips grew thicker. Just as Yiqing Luo's attack was about to land on the black-robed man, the entire sealed area began to rumble and shake violently. A black figure scurried to the front of the black-robed man. A pair of azure blue eyes were calm without any ripples. At the same time, the owner of this pair of azure blue eyes raised the blue long sword in his hand as he stabbed towards Yiqing Luo. It seemed as though he wanted to perish together with Yiqing Luo. On seeing Long Yunzhan's appearance, Yiqing Luo's heart trembled. She thought that the black-robed man wanted to take the opportunity to leave the sealed grounds. She had not expected the black-robed man to summon Long Yunzhan over. He wanted to use Long Yunzhan's life to exchange for her life. This plan was really well planned. She had not given up on the idea of letting them kill each other. Ha ha ha. Just in time for the most exciting scene. A sharp laughter was heard from the top of the Ling King's main tomb. Following that, Shangguan Liuli leapt down with a smile on her face which was filled with a complacent smile. Yiqing Luo noticed that the injuries on Shangguan Liuli had already recovered. It was probably the effect of the profound yin qi. Shangguan Liuli's eyes, which were painted with gold powder, were filled with frenzied hatred. That delicate face was twisted. Yiqing Luo, if you retract this move, you will not be able to avoid your group leader's sword. And if you avoid your group leader's sword, then your group leader will die under your attack. Saying that, Shangguan Liuli started laughing loudly. Her laughter was extremely maniacal and filled with satisfaction. What will you choose, Yiqing Luo? Go. Guan. Lu. Li. Yiqing Luo gritted her teeth as she stared at that young lady who was laughing maniacally. Her eyes were filled with murderous intent. It was Shangguan Liuli again, that annoying scumbag. Time and time again, she made use of Long Yunzhan to hurt him. Long Yunzhan's profound yin qi was related to Shangguan Liuli. Facing Yiqing Luo's murderous intent, Shangguan Liuli wasn't afraid at all. She laughed savagely. She wanted to see if Yiqing Luo would choose to be injured for the sake of the so-called loyalty. People are always selfish. No one would be willing to sacrifice themselves for others. Yiqing Luo gritted her teeth as she retracted her gaze. Right now, what she needed to think about was how to ensure her and Long Yunzhan's safety. As for Shangguan Liuli, that hopping grasshopper, once he was done with this matter, he would deal with her. It would be a piece of cake. Looking at Long Yunzhan's expressionless face, his profound energy was already closing in on him, but he didn't have the slightest intention of opening it. Yiqing Luo's face turned slightly pale. It was impossible for her to let the profound energy she had released earlier land on Long Yunzhan's body. She naturally understood exactly how much energy she'd expended to sweep up that strand of profound energy earlier. If Long Yunzhan really took it, Long Yunzhan was either dead or crippled. Yiqing Luo's eyes flashed as she secretly gritted her teeth. At this moment, the silver threads of the glower flame fan swiftly retracted and immediately rolled up another strong wave of qi. Forcefully, it caused the profound energy which was released earlier to deviate by an angle. At the same time, Yiqing Luo's footwork extended as she displayed her own set of strange footwork in an attempt to avoid Long Yunzhan's attack. But Yiqing Luo had forgotten about it. Even if Long Yunzhan's consciousness was controlled by the profound yin qi. But this body was still Long Yunzhan's body. At the same time when Yiqing Luo's footwork was displayed, Long Yunzhan's body had already predicted that she would make such a move. Immediately, his long sword tilted. Chapter 888. Little Luo, Dmo Xian's peach blossom eyes were deep and gloomy as he was about to make a move to fetch Yiqing Luo. Seeing this, the man in black quickly rushed toward the giant beast. Dmo Xian's eyes narrowed as his purple robe fluttered. His cold and piercingly cold voice was intimidating. Under this lord's eyes, how dare you snatch the thing that this lord wants? As soon as he finished speaking, a powerful profound energy erupted from his surroundings. Wave after wave, they spread throughout the entire sealed area. The black-clothed man, who was rushing toward the giant beast, was forced to spit out a mouthful of blood under the strong pressure. He fell to the ground, unable to move. Dmo Xian gave a light harumph as he turned his head to look at Yiqing Luo. Long Yunzhan hugged the young girl whose shoulder was pierced in the shoulder. Long Yunzhan's hand which was holding the long sword was stained with Yiqing Luo's blood as he kept on trembling and crying out. Faintly, one could see Long Yunzhan's trembling body. He was about to step forward, but he stopped. A vortex that seemed to be able to swallow everything surged in the depths of his dark and gloomy eyes. He turned around and returned to the side of the huge beast's bloody mouth, quietly guarding Yiqing Luo's profound jade heart. Yiqing Luo's face turned pale from the pain as she glanced at the wound on her shoulder. As expected of a sword made from the bones of a human and a dragon. Just by grazing her shoulder, so much blood gushed out. Her body was in Long Yunzhan's arms. She could clearly feel Long Yunzhan's long body trembling. Ah Zhan. Yiqing Luo endured the intense pain on her shoulder as she called out Long Yunzhan's name softly. Long Yunzhan's body trembled even more. His chest was forcefully propped up by Yiqing Luo, and when she saw his face, Yiqing Luo was stunned. That pair of azure eyes, at this moment, was enduring some kind of intense pain. The black aura in his eyes kept moving. With every movement, Long Yunzhan's brows furrowed a little more. However, he forcefully suppressed this intense pain. It seemed to be fighting intensely against the mysterious Yin Qi. Yiqing Luo understood something. The sword in Long Yunzhan's hand was made from Long Yunzhan's bones. After being stained with her blood, Long Yunzhan naturally sensed her presence. It was her blood that awakened Long Yunzhan's consciousness. Her eyes sparkled as she reached out and gripped Long Yunzhan's clothes, speaking in a gentle voice, "Ah Zhan, it's me. Open your eyes and look at me." The cries caused Long Yunzhan to reveal an extremely pained expression. At this moment, the mysterious Yin energy flowing in his eyes grew larger and larger, swirling around him. Long Yunzhan couldn't bear the heavy burden as he howled loudly, as he loosened Yiqing Luo's petite body. Then, he turned around and rushed out of the sealed area, disappearing without a trace. Yiqing Luo stabilized her body and chased after Long Yunzhan for a few steps, but helplessly the wound on her shoulder emitted a tearing pain. She put her hand on her shoulder and gave up on the idea of chasing after him. Her blood still remained on Long Yunzhan's long sword. He would definitely be able to make Long Yunzhan regain his rationality. What a scene of deep affection and righteousness. Shengguan Liuli stared at Yiqing Luo malevolently, her eyes filled with viciousness. It was such a good opportunity, but it didn't develop according to his imagination. They had not expected that Yiqing Luo really chose to accept their group leader's sword and not let him get hurt. This ridiculous sense of loyalty, it was simply a joke. Shengguan Liuli's eyes were filled with wanton profound Yin energy as her 5 fingers suddenly turned into eagle claws, charging towards Yiqing Luo's direction. Yiqing Luo gave a cold laugh as the feather fan in her hands flipped a few times, directly welcoming Shengguan Liuli's attack. Profound qi surged like a rainbow, creating a devilish crack in the air. That black profound Yin energy intertwined with Yiqing Luo's red glow. Bam! Chapter 889. Even though Shengguan Liuli had the mysterious Yin Qi to back her up, Shengguan Liuli was just a piece of trash. Yiqing Luo sneered, her fingertips touched the scorching ring and her 5 fingers clenched tightly. A powerful profound qi that caused one's heart to palpitate burst forth from Yiqing Luo's body. Shangguan Liuli's expression suddenly changed. Just as he was about to turn around and run, a piercing chill came from behind him. Shangguan Liuli knew that she couldn't escape, so she gave up and racked her brains to think of a way to deal with it. Suddenly, an idea flashed past her mind as she anxiously said, "Yiqing Luo. You can't kill me. The woman who blocked the sword for you earlier, the poison in her body was not only from the purple poppy grass. There was also the powder specially made by the dark forces. If you kill me, that woman will die too." Shangguan Liuli's words successfully stopped the movements of the people behind her. The glowing flame fan was only a few fingers away from her neck. "What did you say?" Yiqing Luo's fingers tightened on the feather fan as she questioned him coldly. It was a matter of life and death. No matter how quick-witted Shangguan Liuli was, she knew that it was a matter of life and death. As long as she could use that woman as a threat, Yiqing Luo would absolutely not dare to kill her. Thinking up to this point, Shangguan Liuli's expression calmed down. "If you don't believe me, you can kill me and go back to find some purple millet grass to see if you can save your companion." Shangguan Liuli raised her neck high, as though waiting for Yiqing Luo to strike. Yiqing Luo clenched her fists, her long and narrow eyes were piercingly cold. In the end, he put away the feather fan. Regardless of whether Shangguan Liuli's words were true or false, Yiqing Luo didn't even dare to use Yan Shaoyi's life to probe. If Yan Shaoyi was really poisoned by the dark forces, Ghost Doctor, he didn't know if he could make an antidote. Shangguan Liuli heaved a sigh of relief when she saw the danger was resolved, and then a wisp of a cold smile appeared on her face. Letting go of a person who wanted him dead was the worst choice he could make. Unfortunately, Yiqing Luo let her off. Just for that ridiculous sense of brotherhood. Shangguan Liuli was dismissive. Things like loyalty would only become her stumbling block. There was nothing in this world that could be relied on. Only he could use all his means to stand at the peak. What poison did she get? Yiqing Luo suppressed the anger in her heart and stared at Shangguan Liuli with a murderous look. "If I told you, would I still be able to leave this place alive?" Shangguan Liuli sneered, the black qi slowly covering her body once more. "If I asked you to leave, would you still tell me?" Yiqing Luo's charming eyes suddenly turned piercingly cold. Her fingertips pinched the glower flame fan as she approached in a flash, unafraid of the profound yin qi surrounding Shangguan Liuli. With a wave of the feather fan, the dark yin qi was split open. In the blink of an eye, she had already approached Shangguan Liuli. She reached out and grabbed Shangguan Liuli's collar. "You dare to play such petty tricks in front of me?" Yiqing Luo's speed was so fast that even the profound yin qi had not detected her. Shangguan Liuli stared at Yiqing Luo in astonishment, as she obviously felt that Yiqing Luo's power had increased once again. The divine relic had fallen into Yiqing Luo's hands. Shangguan Liuli's peripheral vision glanced at the ring on Yiqing Luo's fingertip as her pupils contracted slightly. Noticing Shangguan Liuli's expression, Yiqing Luo directly locked her lower jaw as she sneered, "Looks like you've just tasted some sweetness and you're so obedient to that so-called lord of yours. Thinking of helping that lord to get the divine relic?" Shangguan Liuli's face instantly turned pale as her pupils contracted. Chapter 890. However, Shangguan Liuli's tone was flustered, as well as that unconcealable flickering glint in her eyes which had tried her best to make her expression calm. It showed that Shangguan Liuli absolutely knew the dark forces' lord, and knew that the dark forces' objective for this mission was the god relic. Shangguan Liuli's evasive words made Yiqing Luo suspicious of Shangguan Liuli's identity. Those people whom she met who made deals with the dark forces. Other than Yiqing Qian, no one else was able to control the profound yin qi freely. On the contrary, most of them were controlled by the profound Yin Qi. Not to mention knowing about the Lord. The last time they met, Yiqing Luo had not detected any profound Yin Qi from Shangguan Liuli. Which meant that Shangguan Liuli's deal with the dark forces was just a matter of a few days. In just a few days, Shangguan Liuli already knew about the dark forces' internal situation. Knew about the Lord. Knew the objective of this mission. Logically speaking, the dark forces belonged to the group of rats. They were the most cautious in everything they did. If it was just to make use of the relationship, how would it be possible for a dumb pig like Shangguan Liuli to know more about the dark forces? Unless... What did Shangguan Liuli take to make a deal with the dark forces? Or perhaps... Just as she was deep in thoughts, Shangguan Liuli seemed to have noticed Yiqing Luo's daze. She immediately struck out with her palm. A strong gush of air came towards her and the sense of danger made Yiqing Luo subconsciously let go of her hand as she retreated a few steps. Shangguan Liuli immediately flew towards the direction of the main tomb. Trying to escape. Yiqing Luo's eyes narrowed as the feather fan in her hand moved and a burst of profound qi pressed forward. When it got near to Shangguan Liuli, it transformed into a huge red dragon as it bared its fangs and brandished its claws to block Shangguan Liuli's path. Coincidentally, that black-robed man had already reached the entrance of the main tomb and was about to leave. But because of Shangguan Liuli's nearing, even the black-robed man was blocked. Black-robed man's face turned steely green as he silently scolded Shangguan Liuli for not knowing what's good for her. Shangguan Liuli looked at the huge red dragon in disbelief. Although she knew that this was just an illusion formed from profound qi. But when the huge dragon bared its fangs and brandished its claws to bite her head, her heart still felt terrified. Just at this moment. All of a sudden, the entire sealed land began to shake. The incomparably sturdy walls covered with giant beast totems began to crack. A powerful fluctuation of profound qi spread out in the sealed area. In an instant, the entire sealed area was filled with smoke and dust, and gravel flew in all directions. Dmo Xian seemed to have realized something as his gloomy black eyes flickered faintly as he opened his mouth. Lil Luo, come over. Even with the protection of a divine artifact, this powerful undulation was nothing. Yiqing Luo also felt the pressure. Yiqing Luo didn't try to be brave as she immediately turned around and flew towards Dmo Xian. At the same time, the profound qi in the air began to fluctuate like the clouds in rain. Bang, 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 boom boom boom, a deafening sound directly exploded at the place where Yiqing Luo was standing earlier. Gravel flew everywhere in an instant. The giant beast totem on the wall trembled and cracked, but it still looked very lifelike. Yiqing Luo glanced at it from the corner of her eyes and felt that the appearance of that huge beast was extremely familiar. He felt as if he was about to recall something. Suddenly, he heard Shangguan Liuli's ecstatic voice, "My lord. My lord." When Yiqing Luo heard this form of address, her sharp eyes looked towards the direction of the voice. She saw a figure covered in a black robe looming in the midst of the dust. That figure walked directly in front of Shangguan Liuli and stretched out his hand to grab her arm. Chapter 891. The strong wind stirred and the air billowed. The moment that person grabbed Shangguan Liuli and left the sealed ground, the black robe covering that person's head had a small corner blown open. Coincidentally, that person turned his head and looked over. His gaze met with Yiqing Luo's. But in the blink of an eye, that person shifted his gaze, grabbed Shangguan Liuli and disappeared in a blink of an eye. Yiqing Luo didn't chase after him. She also knew that it was impossible to catch up. Only, if she didn't see wrongly, that Lord's eyes. It was the ruthlessness of dipped poison. As though he hated her to the core. That pair of eyes looked like a woman's eyes. And there was a vaguely familiar feeling. That was the boss of the dark forces, the person who was addressed as Lord. No. Yiqing Luo felt that something was strange. Powerful strength, as well as a daunting pressure. Indeed seemed like an extremely powerful opponent. But Yiqing Luo felt that. The mastermind of the dark forces who had been hiding in the dark, how could he appear in front of her so easily? Especially, just to save Shangguan Liuli. He didn't even have the intention to take her profound jade heart. Then, why would Shangguan Liuli shout, Lord, at that person? Was it deliberately shouted for her to hear, to divert her target? Or Shangguan Liuli really felt that person was Lord? After that person left with Shangguan Liuli, the entire sealed ground gradually quietened down. Let's leave too. Yiqing Luo restrained the deep thoughts in her eyes. She turned around and stretched out her hand to pick up her profound jade heart. Perhaps it was because she was excited to finally find her profound jade heart, her hand was slightly trembling. When she took it out, her fingertip was cut by that huge beast's realistic teeth. A drop of blood slowly dripped down along the huge beast's carved teeth. Yiqing Luo didn't pay attention to it, only holding her profound jade heart, and returned to Dmo Xian's side, her eyes filled with joy. That blood slowly merged into the teeth. A ray of dark light, faintly discernible. In a split second, peace returned. Dmo Xian's eyes were filled with smiles, his long and narrow peach blossom eyes were deep and serene, filled with pampering intent. Suddenly, as if he had sensed something, he turned his head to look at the giant beast with its bloody mouth wide open. Moreover, he sensed something strange and immediately retracted his gaze. Rubbing Yiqing Luo's hair, he said with a faint smile, "Fuse the profound heart jade into your body, then fuse the power of the divine weapon with the profound heart jade. Your profound grade should have an enormous increase." Yiqing Luo nodded her head hard. She tightly gripped her profound heart jade, and her pink lips hooked into an enchanting smile. Her charming eyes were long and narrow. "Before that, I still have to take care of this abandoned person." As she spoke, her gaze slowly shifted to the black-robed man who was moving at the speed of a tortoise, trying his best to make himself as inconspicuous as possible as he moved towards the exit. The black-robed man's body froze. "Do you want to live?" Yiqing Luo smiled as she gazed at him. The black-robed man hesitated for a moment and looked at Dmo Xian. He seemed to be weighing something. If it was Yiqing Luo alone, without the profound heart jade, she might still have a chance to deal with it. But that man, the black-robed man, suddenly remembered that the man seemed to have called himself main body. The original body. The black-robed man's expression abruptly changed as he guessed Dmo Xian's identity. Immediately, he nodded without hesitation. "I want to live. Answer a few of my questions. If I'm satisfied, I can consider letting you leave." Yiqing Luo smiled satisfactorily as she threw out a bait. The people from the dark forces, each more selfish than the other. They were all extremely greedy for life and afraid of death. Just look at Elder Xiong and Guardianing and you'd know. Chapter 892. Under Dmo Xian's identity, the black-robed man totally didn't notice the murderous intent in Yiqing Luo's eyes when she said the sentence. Most importantly, in the eyes of the black-robed man, Yiqing Luo's arrogance was merely because of Dmo Xian's backing. And he didn't put Yiqing Luo in his eyes. That person earlier isn't the so-called Lord, right? Yiqing Luo narrowed her eyes as she asked the first question. The black-robed man's face instantly turned pale. That sinister and sneaky face surfaced a trace of fear and fear. He shook his head and made a cross gesture with his mouth. "Can't say." Yiqing Luo narrowed her eyes as a sliver of danger appeared. The black-robed man's gaze looked towards Dmo Xian as he struggled to shake his head. indicating that he really couldn't answer this question. Yiqing Luo was about to open her mouth when Dmo Xian's warm palm covered her shoulder. Yiqing Luo looked back at him. Dmo Xian shook his head and said calmly, like this kind of shady forces, each and every one of them are selfish and it's impossible for them to sincerely surrender. Only benefits will drive them to surrender. In other words, these people from the dark forces, none of them could be trusted by the upper echelons of the dark forces. Let them enter the Nirvana realm to complete the mission. Other than the so-called Lord, who had something to blackmail them with, there was no one else. These people were all inflicted with a forbidden spell. Once they mentioned anything about the Lord from the dark forces, they would die miserably. In other words, whether that person was the Lord, Yiqing Luo couldn't get any confirmation from the black-robed man. She also couldn't get any useful information from the black-robed man. Yiqing Luo indifferently straightened her waist. Since you can't get any answers, then just kill them to save time. Saying that, she held the profound heart jade and turned back to the huge beast to start fusing with it. That black-robed man was trembling in fear as he immediately shook his head and begged for mercy. I can't answer this question, but I have other information that can exchange my life. Ha! Yiqing Luo stopped her footsteps in interest. Turning back, she saw the black-robed man looking at Dmo Xian with a face full of fear. Her smile deepened as she knew the reason why the black-robed man was so obedient was because Dmo Xian was standing beside her. To tell the truth, this feeling of borrowing the tiger's might was actually quite good. The black-robed man trembled and said, the dark forces seem to want to return to the Nirvana realm. The people who have come to the Nirvana realm have already taken up 1/3 of the dark forces. Yiqing Luo frowned as she looked at Dmo Xian. As expected, Dmo Xian's expression turned grave. It seemed like he did not receive the news that the dark forces had come to the Nirvana realm. 1/3 of the dark forces had arrived. As the number one evil palace, the Imperial Palace didn't receive any news. The dark forces had infiltrated the Nirvana realm too stealthily. Or could it be that the Imperial Palace's investigation level had also been infiltrated by the dark forces? Seeing that the two of them were deep in thought, the black-robed man thought that there was a chance and continued, there are about 1,000 people who have been infected by the mysterious Yin Qi. I guess it is possible that they are trying to conquer the Nirvana realm and return to it. The black-robed man paused for a moment and hid the way he addressed him. Want to conquer the Nirvana realm? Return to the Nirvana realm. Did he want to take revenge for being expelled from the Nirvana realm? Chapter 893. Yiqing Luo's eyes were deep and serene as she remained silent for some time. Looking at Dmo Xian's grave expression, she slowly shook her head. Her tender red lips curved into a flirtatious smile. Word by word, her pink lips opened and closed. I want to know everything except for your boss. Yiqing Luo crossed her legs and sat right below the huge beast's open mouth. Dmo Xian stood by the side, his gaze deep and serene as he gazed deeply at her, his expression calm without any ripples. Not far from the two of them was the exit of the sealed land. A corpse with a stunned expression was lying there with its eyes wide open. His eyes were filled with unwillingness as he breathed his last. Right from the start, Yiqing Luo had no intention to let this black-robed man off. She was not a kind person. In her view of the world, there were only 3 kinds of people: her own people, strangers, and enemies. If it wasn't someone from the dark organization, her brother would not encounter such a thing. If Long Yunzhan regained consciousness and knew that he had done such a thing, what kind of attitude should he use to face this group of brothers? Moreover, her Shiju was also injured because of this. Right now, the brothers were at the bottom of the tomb. There was also a corpse king that was eyeing them covetously from the dark. They didn't know if they had encountered any danger. In order to leave the tomb of the Ling King as soon as possible, Yiqing Luo wanted to speed up the speed of fusing with the profound heart jade. She withdrew all kinds of thoughts and closed her eyes. Following Dmo Xian's guidance, Yiqing Luo held the profound heart jade in her palm and brought it to her chest. A bewitching red light slowly wrapped around the profound heart jade. Bit by bit, it merged into Yiqing Luo's body. The red light was bewitching and dazzling. No one discovered that in the instant it fused into the body, in the center of the profound jade heart, there was a faintly discernible. Wisps of black gas flashed. It was fleeting. The first feeling after the profound heart jade fused into her body was that Yiqing Luo had an obvious reaction. A powerful force filled his limbs and bones. After being baptized by the marrow cleansing pill, his meridians actually felt as if they were being filled with profound qi energy. She could feel the continuous flow of profound energy in her body. The spiritual energy of heaven and earth surged toward him, toward his heart. The child profound heart jade that was originally being nurtured in the profound heart jade suddenly jumped out of his heart. By the side, Dmo Xian stretched out his palm and caught that profound heart jade. Yiqing Luo's special profound jade heart replaced it and embedded itself deep into the heart. Bang! His chest seemed to be hit by an extremely powerful aura. Yiqing Luo's body was enveloped by a red glow as it slowly gave off a dazzling brilliance. Like a blooming rose, the flames were enchanting. A terrifying aura surged and exploded. His hair, which was simply tied up, fluttered in the wind. The ground quaked and the mountains shook. The entire tomb began to collapse due to the overwhelming force. Shake and tremble. That was submission to the strong. Lass. Seizing the chance to absorb the azure water ring's power. Fuse with the profound heart jade. Old Man Song's tone was unable to conceal his joy. The azure dew bracelet also gradually began to heat up. One could see how excited Old Man Song was. Hearing what was said, Yiqing Luo began to follow Old Man Song's directions. When she formed a blood contract with the azure dew ring, the power that flowed within her body and was unable to fuse with the profound heart jade, slowly and kindly welcomed it into her own profound heart jade. Perhaps it was because this profound heart jade was hers. That azure dew ring's power circled around Yiqing Luo's heart once before it began to slowly seep into her body. The surrounding air began to distort, stagnate. Chapter 894. Bam bam bam, strong profound qi kept colliding against the surroundings. The air was stagnant and heavy. Carrying a majestic pressure, it made one's breathing became extremely difficult. Finally, the entire sealed ground collapsed as it couldn't bear the pressure. However, that shattered huge stone, at the instant it crashed into Yiqing Luo, it was rebounded. That was an array barrier. The array barrier which Dmo Xian had set up. Dmo Xian didn't pay any attention to the surrounding situation. The current his gaze was fixated on Yiqing Luo, paying close attention to her. His deep black eyes could only accommodate Yiqing Luo one person. He allowed the broken stones to collapse and the tomb to be destroyed. A ray of light shot into the tomb. Following that, densely packed light rays shone downwards. Following the destruction of the earth and mountains. Rumble, the tomb completely collapsed. A radius of 100 miles was leveled to flat ground. Vice Group Leader Qing Luo. Worried voices shouted out in unison. But they saw Yiqing Luo's eyes shut tightly, apparently in meditation. Qiao Jin immediately made everyone keep quiet. Over 100 people rushed over in unison. But no one opened their mouths to speak. After the tomb collapsed, all the stone walls had already turned into nothingness. If it wasn't for the fact that Baiming Lian's city had urgently set up the array barrier at the critical moment, they were afraid. Even if they weren't crushed to death by the huge stones. Then they would also be shocked to death by this majestic and powerful energy. 100 of them were all enveloped in beaming Lian City's array barrier, as they looked at Yiqing Luo with a complicated and shocked expression. Originally they thought that to release such a powerful energy, and to flatten the entire tomb, other than the Overlord, there was no one else. Of course, there was a possibility that the mastermind behind this had appeared. They were burning with anxiety, worried about Yiqing Luo. But they had not expected that the one who released such a powerful energy was actually Yiqing Luo. "Zhou, why are there so many people around?" Suddenly, a WorldLink mercenary's voice was trembling slightly. This sentence made everyone's gaze shift away from Yiqing Luo. When they looked around, everyone's eyes widened in shock. They saw the entire King Ling's tomb was surrounded by at least 2,000 to 3,000 people, a black mass. They were at least 50 meters away from the tomb. The entire tomb was surrounded by 3 layers of guards. Judging from their uniform, there were at least a few hundred people from different forces gathered here. What was going on? Why were there so many people outside the tomb for no apparent reason? Mercenary group. Someone has indeed barged into the tomb of the Ling King. Could it be that the seal on the divine artifact was broken by these kids? Let's see which one of them has a divine artifact. What are you looking at? Just kill him and the divine artifact will come out. Everyone was talking at once, discussing spiritedly. The group of people in the world group were all stunned when they heard that. What divine artifact? What seal? What exactly was the purpose of the profound practitioners of these powers coming here? Just as the mercenaries were looking at each other in confusion, a strange light flashed across their faces. The earth shook and the mountains shook again. Following that, Yiqing Luo, who was originally sitting cross-legged, suddenly floated up into mid-air. A ball of flame-like light enveloped her whole body. Boom, boom, boom. Within 100 miles of her surroundings, the profound chi instantly exploded, as though it was a sea of fire. The surrounding thousands of cultivators were all injured by this profound chi. Those who reacted quickly opened up a barrier to defend. Those who were slow to react were directly sent flying by the profound chi. Chapter 895. Yiqing Luo slowly opened her eyes. The bewitching red glow was like a sharp blade as it shot out. Dressed in black, the cherry blossoms on her sleeves swayed along with the wind. Like a ball of flame, it was burning. She retracted her gaze as she gazed at her surroundings. Like a high and mighty queen, looking disdainfully at all living beings and the heavens. She had advanced. More accurately, she had broken through. At the 4th stage of the profound realm, after fusing with his incomparably special profound jade heart, the speed at which he absorbed profound energy, as well as the speed at which he cultivated, was 100 times faster than before. Adding on to the blood-packed God Relic, sharing energy with the God Relic. She had directly leaped a profound grade. Successfully advanced to Earth Profound 4th grade realm. She could be called as a high-leveled cultivator. Earth Profound grade. In the entire West continent, there were no more than 500 people who could name this name. Earth Profound grade and above could be called as high-leveled cultivators. Like Yiqing Luo, who was merely 15 years old, had already become an Earth Profound 4th grade high-leveled cultivator. Even in the entire Nirvana realm, she was probably the number 1. Advanced. Vice Group Leader advanced. I can't tell Vice Group Leader's profound grade, such a powerful strength, surely she's already in Earth Profound grade. She's absolutely above Earth Profound grade. Heavens! You know, before today, our Vice Group Leader was only in Mystic Profound grade. That's too abnormal. Vice Group Leader is simply the most abnormal among the abnormal. The youngsters in the world group were about to kneel down in front of Yiqing Luo. One must know that when Yiqing Luo first joined Devil class, she was only in Yellow Profound grade. Later on, she leaped to Mystic Profound grade. Now she was immediately promoted to Earth Profound grade. Other people had to spend over 10 years or even their entire lives to not be able to cross the Profound grade. Yiqing Luo only spent less than 2 months' time. That was too exciting. Over at Death God Mercenary Group, when they saw Yiqing Luo floating in mid-air, they couldn't help but go into a daze. At this moment, no one could remain calm. It was too unbelievable. Yi Fengyu's face turned green and white. Nangong Firen's eyes widened in disbelief as he felt a sense of loss. The distance between him and Yiqing Luo had once again. And the surrounding thousands of people were boiling. The powers that had come here naturally included the powers of the 4 great clans. Yuchi family's patriarch recognized Yiqing Luo at one glance as he immediately blurted out, Isn't she Three Springs sect's young matriarch Yiqing Luo? How could this be? The Yuchi patriarch remembered it very clearly. 1 month ago, he even brought a large group of Yuchi family's guards to the old residence in an attempt to bring Yiqing Luo away. The Yiqing Luo at that time, the profound rank couldn't exceed the mystic profound rank 5. It had only been a month. Patriarch Yuchi's complexion instantly turned pale, as though he had seen a monster, as he stared at Yiqing Luo. As though he was trying to find a way to deny that this imposing young lady in front of him was not the Yiqing Luo that he knew. The moment Patriarch Yuchi's words left his mouth, the surrounding forces flared up. Who didn't know the name of the young lord of the Three Springs sect? That was the infamous 7th young mistress. But, where's the so-called trash? How was he trash? All of them were discussing fervently as thousands of people had different expressions on their faces. The gazes which they shot towards Yiqing Luo were filled with various emotions. He was the young lord of the Three Springs sect. At the age of 15, she had already stepped into the Earth Profound realm. Moreover, he was famous for being a wastrel. It was simply too shocking. Everyone rubbed their eyes as they couldn't believe their own eyes. However, no matter how they looked, no matter how they stared, that black-robed lady who was suspended in mid-air, with a devastatingly beautiful countenance, was the young matriarch of the Three Springs sect, Yi family's trash 7th Mississippi. Chapter 896. Yiqing Luo's long and narrow eyes seemed to bear all the splendor between heaven and earth. The smile on her lips was enchanting, and coupled with the imposing manner she was giving off, her entire personality was exceptionally captivating. Yiqing Luo didn't bother about other people's discussions. Her line of sight was fixed on a figure not far away, hidden in the dark. Her long and narrow eyes squinted dangerously as she smiled and frowned, looking extremely flirtatious. That glass-like eyes were overflowing with brilliant colors, as though the stars in the sky, dazzling. Vice Group Leader. The World Group's mercenaries looked up at Yiqing Luo, as their eyes were filled with envy. Yiqing Luo slowly lowered her eyelids as her vision swept past everyone, as her pink lips curled into a faint arc. As though she was consoling them, making them feel at ease. Finally, her gaze was fixed on a certain spot. It was Yan Xiaoyi. Yan Xiaoyi's face was drained of blood as she leaned into Qiao Jin's arms unconsciously. There was an extremely frail-looking Shiju by the side, as it raised its huge leopard head, as its bronze bell-sized eyes stared at her in a daze. Several times it wanted to stand up and stand by her side. But it didn't seem to have any energy, as it could only stare at her in a daze. Yiqing Luo's chest was in pain as her eyes overflowed with a vicious look. When she raised her eyes again, it congealed at a certain spot as her voice was extremely chilly. Shengguan Luli, today's enmity, I, Yiqing Luo, will repay you 100 folds in the future. The two people who were hiding in the shadows saw that their concealment had been discovered and couldn't be bothered to hide anymore. They saw a black-robed man pinching Shangguan Luli's arm as he walked out from the shadows. Shangguan Luli had no signs of fear. There were so many people around, why would she be afraid of Yiqing Luo? So what if she was in Earth Profound Realm? She was still no match for her. Shangguan Luli sneered, "Another day. Do you still have another day?" Simply ridiculous. Even if she detected that she was hiding in the shadows, she didn't kill her directly. What vicious words, that she would take revenge in the future. Did she really think that she had advanced to Earth Profound Realm, so powerful that she could overturn the heavens? Shangguan Luli scoffed. Yiqing Luo's gaze was chilly as her lips curled into an icy arc. Really? That smile was like an Azura from hell, extremely terrifying. Shangguan Liuli shivered for no reason. However, he stubbornly refused to admit defeat. Could it be that you want to kill me in front of everyone? I'm the fifth daughter of the Shangguan clan. How dare you kill me? The Shangguan clan won't let you off. I won't kill you, at least not now. Yiqing Luo sneered as she said it word by word. You. Shangguan Liuli was stunned. She could tell that Yiqing Luo really had no intention to kill her now. If Yiqing Luo wanted to kill her, even if the surrounding people were all from the Shangguan family, Yiqing Luo wouldn't hesitate at all. Shangguan Liuli frowned, suddenly not understanding what tricks Yiqing Luo was playing. Doesn't the academy have an interclass competition? Didn't you issue a challenge to the devil class? How about I add another bet? Yiqing Luo's lips curled into a devilish smile. Shangguan Liuli's brows furrowed even more, and she subconsciously looked at the black-robed man beside her. After a silent exchange, Shangguan Liuli then looked at Yiqing Luo. What? If the devil class wins the championship, I want your profound jade heart, as well as your tendons and meridians. Yiqing Luo's voice was like frost. Her tone was calm, as though she was having a casual chat. Conversely, I will hand over my profound jade heart, as well as my tendons and meridians. When she said that, not only was Shangguan Liuli stunned. Even the surrounding forces were stunned. Wasn't this bet a little too big? Using her profound jade heart and tendons as the bet, that was also betting her entire life. Chapter 897. You. Shangguan Liuli bit her lower lip tightly, her eyes were covered with gold powder, looking extremely comical. You're crazy. Yiqing Luo was absolutely crazy. Otherwise, why would she make such a suggestion? Anyone with eyes could tell that devil class would not be able to obtain the final victory in the interclass competition. One must know that the interclass competition was a competition between a class and a team. Even if Yiqing Luo was in the Earth Profound grade and was ranked top 10 in the Heavenly Academy's top exponent ranking, it was impossible for her to defeat the other classes. Moreover, even if the low, medium and high class too really lost to Yiqing Luo alone, the Academy would absolutely not let a waste class win the championship. They would definitely send out the students from the class of gods. Yiqing Luo was a top exponent, her ability was on par with the students from the class of gods. But there was only one Yiqing Luo in the devil class. And in the class of gods, every student's profound grade was above Yiqing Luo. Win the championship. How could that be possible? Shangguan Liuli couldn't understand where Yiqing Luo got her confidence from, to think that devil class could win the championship. And he even bet his entire life on this interclass competition. In front of thousands of cultivators and various forces, she made this bet. Which meant that once this bet was established, the bet must be completed. Otherwise, these forces wouldn't have stood by idly. Why, you don't dare. Yiqing Luo curled her lips coldly, her tone was filled with disdain and contempt. Shangguan Liuli's malevolent face flushed red. Why wouldn't I dare? All right. Let's bet. As long as Devil Class wins the championship, I will destroy my own profound jade heart and meridians. Just as she finished her words, Shangguan Liuli covered her mouth fiercely, feeling extremely annoyed. How could she be agitated by Yi Qing Luo? He actually agreed to this ridiculous wager. But the words had already been said out in front of everyone, there was no room for regrets. Moreover, before she could regain her senses, a drop of crystal-clear blood shot out from Yi Qing Luo's fingertip, directly falling onto Shangguan Liuli's forehead. In a split second, it merged into her body. Shangguan Liuli's face turned steely green as she stretched out her hand to wipe her forehead. You, what did you do to me? What are you doing? Don't worry, it's just a curse. Yi Qing Luo's lips curled up slightly as she sneered coldly. This is to prevent the both of us from reneging on the bet, isn't it? Shangguan Liuli's face turned pale, and her body trembled. She secretly thought that Yi Qing Zhen was too ruthless. He was so ruthless to himself, not to mention to others. He swore on his heart's blood. It was a curse cast using the blood of his heart. Once the wager was established, if one of the parties went back on their word, then, that party would be forced to carry out the wager according to the wager. For example, the bet between Yi Qing Luo and Shangguan Liuli, in order to destroy the profound heart jade, had already broken all the tendons in her limbs. Then, after the curse was established, Yi Qing Luo or Shangguan Liuli, whichever side lost the bet, wasn't willing to destroy their own profound jade heart and meridians. This curse would be forcefully performed. Shangguan Liuli was still remorseful and frightened. The black-robed man beside her tightened his grip on her wrist. Shangguan Liuli's face paled, and she immediately looked at the black-robed man respectfully. Shangguan Liuli's eyes lit up as if they had communicated with each other, revealing a joyful expression. What fear! What vexation and worry! She didn't need these emotions. Shangguan Liuli raised her head as she complacently looked at the young lady who was suspended in midair. Her eyes were gloomy and ruthless as she suddenly laughed out loud. That's right, she raised her voice. He had increased the volume of his voice by several times. Chapter 898. God Relic. That one sentence stirred up 10,000 waves. The various powerhouses' original mood of watching a show was instantly swept away. Everyone's vision congealed onto Yi Qing Luo. God Relic was on her. Despicable. Shangguan Liuli. What rubbish are you sprouting? How would Qing Luo have any God Relic on her? Don't think that you can escape just because everyone's attention is focused on us. The World Mercenary Group's mercenaries' expressions turned especially ugly. They immediately opened their mouths to defend Yi Qing Luo. Yi Qing Luo didn't say a word. She stared coldly at Shangguan Liuli, who had a smug look on her face. In the end, her gaze was fixed on the black-robed man beside her. King Ling's tomb had been blown up and various forces had gathered around. It must be because the dark forces had released the God Relic seal, causing the God Relic's aura to leak out, attracting various forces and a large number of cultivators to get their hands on this God Relic. After all, it was an ancient God Relic from thousands of years ago. There were too many cultivators who wanted to get it. Otherwise there wouldn't be so many cultivators gathered around here. Whereas Shangguan Liuli's words should be instructed by that black-robed man, trying to make use of the surrounding forces to stop her from capturing them. It seemed that this so-called His Lordship was still somewhat afraid of her. The surrounding forces had obviously pointed the spearhead towards Yi Qing Luo. The complacent smile on Shangguan Liuli's face became even more radiant. The God Relic is on Yi Qing Luo. I can testify on my identity as Shangguan family's fifth Missy. If there's any falsehood in my words, I'm willing to bear all the consequences. The other forces' eyes instantly shone. They came all the way to King Ling's tomb. Wasn't it all for this god relic? Now the god relic was in the hands of a young lass. So what if she was an earth profound expert? How could one person fight against so many of them? The various forces' men started to stir as they already had the intention to pounce towards Yiqing Luo. The world group's mercenaries started to gather vigilantly, with Dmo Xian and Yiqing Luo who was floating in mid-air as the center. They formed a tight circle as they stared vigilantly at those surrounding forces. From those forces' cultivators' eyes, the mercenaries could clearly see the gleam in their eyes, as though they were looking at their prey. The mercenaries absolutely believed it. So long as one power made the first move, then the other thousands of profounders would charge over without the slightest hesitation. Shangguan Liuli let out a ferocious laugh as her plan worked. She threw a glance at the Shangguan clan's men. The leader of the Shangguan clan's forces was coincidentally the Shangguan third young master, Shangguan Fangyi. When he saw Shangguan Liuli, his face was filled with astonishment. He could not believe that his big-breasted, brainless sister would actually be so daring. Not afraid of Yiqing Luo's powerful pressure in front of everyone. Who was the person in the black robe beside Shangguan Liuli? The siblings looked at each other. Shangguan Fangyi had a lot of questions he wanted to ask, but he couldn't leave the Shangguan clan's territory. If he were to make a move, he would definitely be the first to make a move. Shangguan Liuli looked towards his direction as she blinked her eyes, as she faintly touched her fingers, following that her vision shot towards Yiqing Luo's direction. She no longer looked at Shangguan Fangyi. Instead her arm was forcefully pulled by the black-robed man, as a deep and cold hoarse voice was heard from under the black robe, "Don't have any ideas. Since we've already confirmed that Yiqing Luo has left the Ling King's tomb, then let's leave now." After saying that, the two figures in the air only had enough time to see two afterimages, and they instantly disappeared. The other forces looked at each other in dismay. There were a few forces who wanted to chase after the direction which the two figures had left towards. But they were all very clear. Chapter 899. Whoever subdued Yiqing Luo first would have a greater chance of obtaining the divine relic. No one was willing to miss the chance to get a divine artifact. Moreover, the fifth Miss Shangguan had already brought out the Shangguan family to testify. That also meant that what fifth Miss Shangguan said was absolutely true. The Shangguan family didn't do anything either, did they? The various factions allowed Shangguan Liuli and the black-robed man to leave. Qiao Jin lowered his head and looked at the pale-faced Yan Shao Yi in his arms as he clenched his teeth tightly and used the mercenary group badge to transmit his voice. "Qing Luo, are you really going to let Shangguan Liuli off so easily? Are you not going to take revenge for Shao Yi? Aren't you going to avenge Shi Jue?" The mercenaries were puzzled. Based on Yiqing Luo's current ability, so what if she killed Shangguan Liuli in front of so many people? Shangguan Liuli had colluded with the dark forces and injured their people. Death was a matter of course. Why did he have to spend so much effort to increase the bet with Shangguan Liuli? How could he let Shangguan Liuli leave so easily? Qiao Jin hugged Yan Shaoyi's shoulders tightly. His usually mischievous eyes were currently surging with thick fury, his eyes filled with silence. Looking at Yan Shaoyi in his arms, Qiao Jin felt a dull pain in his heart. He could not blame Long Yunzhan. Everything was because Shangguan Liuli controlled Long Yunzhan, which caused Yan Shaoyi to be injured. Thinking of this, Qiao Jin even had the thought of tearing Shangguan Liuli into pieces. However, Yiqing Luo had no intention to take revenge. Could it be that Yiqing Luo didn't want to take revenge, and didn't want those who hurt her brothers to pay a painful price? Who said I was going to let Shangguan Liuli off? Yiqing Luo narrowed her eyes dangerously as her lips curled into a cold arc. Sometimes the real revenge is not to kill the other party, but to destroy the other party viciously, making the other party unable to live, unable to live. The last 8 words, Yi Qing Luo enunciated them word by word, as though they were squeezed out from the gaps between her teeth. In order to deal with her, Shangguan Liuli cooperated with the dark forces. Hurt her companions, hurt her brothers. Most importantly, Shangguan Liuli should not joke around with the brotherhood between them. He shouldn't have controlled Long Yunzhan and infected him with the profound Yin Qi just to watch a good show. Qiao Jin and the other mercenaries were stunned. When he caught a glimpse of Yi Qing Luo's sinister murderous intent, his heart suddenly lit up. That's right, Yi Qing Luo wasn't some cowardly person. Moreover, she was more protective than anyone else. Shangguan Liuli had crossed her bottom line. How could she let Shangguan Liuli off? Would killing Shangguan Liuli be enough to vent his anger? No, they wanted to see Shangguan Liuli struggling on the edge of life and death, unable to live or die. What did Shangguan Liuli care about the most? It was her status, her reputation, her everything. The reason why she was so arrogant and willful was because of the princess syndrome. Wasn't it because her own talent was extremely high, her mother knew how to fight for favor, and she had Shangguan Fangyi to match? In that case, what would happen to Shangguan Liuli after he removed all of her support bit by bit? He wanted to die in despair, but he couldn't die no matter what. Only endless despair accompanied her for the rest of her life. Qiao Jin and the others finally understood why Yi Qing Luo made that bet with Shangguan Liuli. The so-called revenge, how could it be as simple as killing the other party? Jin Zi, bring the brothers back to the old residence first. Xiao Yi's poison must be detoxified as soon as possible. Yi Qing Luo's eyes narrowed as a glint flashed past, appearing unfathomable. Chapter 900. The mercenaries' expressions changed slightly. Once again, they were conquered by Yi Qing Luo. This move was simply too despicable. Not taking any action, just loitering around Shangguan Liuli. Didn't that mean that he wanted Shangguan Liuli to live in fear day after day? Just this unknown fear was enough to crush Shangguan Liuli's inner heart. This indeed made one feel much more carefree than killing Shangguan Liuli. There are at least 3,000 people around and there are quite a number of cultivators rushing over from afar. If we leave, how would those people let you off? After such a commotion, Qiao Jin's mind cleared up quite a bit. Although he wanted to carry Yan Xiaoyi back to the old residence, to let God Thief take a good look at her. But, how could he possibly leave Yi Qing Luo to face these thousands of people? Their motive is the God Relic. If they can't find the God Relic, naturally there's nothing they can do. Yi Qing Luo didn't seem to care about those cultivators as she replied calmly. Qiao Jin's brows creased tightly. These various powerhouses obviously wouldn't let them off so easily. They would disperse if they couldn't find the God Relic. For their own ambitions, various powerhouses would rather kill the innocent than to miss any clue regarding the God Relic. Especially when Yi Qing Luo had advanced under everyone's watchful eyes. There was a possibility that some people might think that Yi Qing Luo had used the God Relic's power to advance. Yi Qing Luo's situation was much more difficult than imagined. Don't worry, Xian is here. Yi Qing Luo shook her head as her voice was transmitted through the metal, appearing extremely ethereal. She shut her eyes as she slowly descended to the ground from midair. Everyone's vision followed Yi Qing Luo's movements. As long as Yi Qing Luo showed any signs of acting blindly without thinking, they would immediately swarm up to kill them. After Yi Qing Luo's legs landed on the ground, her charming eyes looked at Qiao Jin as she spoke seriously. Jin Zi, Xiao Yi's poison cannot be dragged on. There's a possibility that she has been poisoned by the Dark Force's special poison powder. If we don't formulate the antidote as soon as possible, Xiao Yi's life will be in danger. Her fingertips caressed gently as she fished out a red brocade bag from the profound phoenix ring and passed it to Qiao Jin. After you return to the old residence, try to make a trip to the academy. Go to the second floor's medicine refining room in the library pavilion and pass this to Ghost Doctor. I implore Master Ghost Doctor to save my companion's life. Given the current situation, she would not be able to leave for a while. She couldn't be sure if what Shangguan Liuli had said before she fled was true. The Ghost Doctor could cure the poison of the purple poppy grass. But if he added in the poison powder specially made by the dark forces, Yi Qing Luo wasn't sure if Ghost Doctor would be able to concoct the antidote immediately. Unable to get the name of the poison powder from Shangguan Liuli, he could only place his hopes on the Ghost Doctor. Qiao Jin gripped the red brocade pouch tightly, his fingertips faintly glowing with a pale green. Mu Zifei stepped out from behind the mercenaries. He untied an ID token from his waist and also placed it in Qiao Jin's hand. With this command token, you can freely choose medicinal ingredients from all the medicine shops under the Mu family's banner. Qiao Jin still wanted to say something, but in the end he was defeated by Yi Qing Luo's persistence. In the end, both sides took a step back. Qiao Jin and the others brought the 40 mercenaries back to the old mansion to help Yan Xiao Yi detoxify the poison. At the same time, they inquired about the progress of the other mercenary groups on this random mission. In particular, he had to pay close attention to Invincible and the Blood Fiend mercenary group. Another 20 over people went to search for the King Corpse's hiding place. King Ling's tomb was already destroyed and the King Corpse's array was also destroyed. Adding on the fact that he was injured in Dmo Xian's hands. If the current King Corpse wanted to capture him, he didn't need to spend much effort. Chapter 901. After arranging everything, Yi Qing Luo shot a glance at Dmo Xian. A huge 9-tailed fox descended from the sky in an instant. 9 furry tails swept down, covering the sky and covering the earth. The hundreds of forces that had surrounded the area were instantly wiped out by this tail. The sudden attack came without any warning. All the forces reacted quickly and started to avoid Little Nine's tail. But when they saw this, when the pure white 9-tailed fox with powerful energy appeared, all the factions were stunned. 9-tailed sacred beast. Only one person owned it. That was Overlord. The appearance of the pure-colored 9-tailed fox indicated that the Overlord was nearby. Could it be? The Overlord was interested in this god relic. The leaders of the various forces were feeling a little uneasy at this moment. If the Overlord was interested in the god relic, even if they fought to the death, they would not be able to get it from the Overlord. Whereas for those few powerhouses who were stationed in Three Spring City, their faces were pale as the gazes they shot at Yi Qing Luo were filled with fear. There were rumors that Yi Qing Luo and the Overlord had a close relationship. They had announced to the public that they were master and disciple. But anyone could tell that the relationship between Yi Qing Luo and the Overlord was beyond that of master and disciple. Most of the profound practitioners from the various forces were filled with suspicions. While Yi Qing Luo's mercenaries took advantage of the chaos to split up. Other than the 9-tailed fox's attack, all the forces were focused on Yi Qing Luo. Naturally they sensed Yi Qing Luo's intention. Just at this moment, a young lady's angry voice was heard from behind. The god relic is with her. She just broke through to the profound grade because of the god relic. The pig-like teammate activated the pig-like teammate's skill again. Although this sharp shout was not deafening, it was still enough to make one's ears tremble. The reliable profound practitioners nearby all heard these words. The god relic was with Yi Qing Luo. And Yi Qing Luo relied on the god relic to break through to the earth profound grade. What on earth was this god relic? It had such a powerful effect. Immediately, all the forces were fired up as their hearts were filled with excitement. Right. The god relic is with her. I saw her take the divine artifact with my own eyes. This matter has nothing to do with our death god mercenary group. I want to leave. I don't want to be in this place. Why are you looking at me? Yiqing Luo was asking her followers to transfer the divine relic. It's over there. Why aren't you guys chasing after it? Oh. Nangong Lin still wanted to scream, but Nangong Firen, who had reacted, covered her mouth and forcefully pulled her behind him. The god-slaying mercenary group had suffered a heavy loss this time. Nearly 40 people entered the tomb, but in the end, only 5 of them came out alive. Those elite mercenaries were all dead. They walked out of the Ling King's tomb together with the world group. In the eyes of the various forces, they were on the same side. For Nangong Lin to admit that the god relic was with Yiqing Luo, wasn't it implicating them? Even if she said that it had nothing to do with the Azura group. Would the profound practitioners of those powers believe him? Nangong Firen regretted bringing Nangong Lin along with her today. Chapter 902. The world group's mercenaries' faces sunk. All of them stared fiercely at Nangong Lin. They were feeling vexed. Earlier in King Ling's tomb, why didn't they throw Nangong Lin into those worms? Nangong Lin didn't have any self-awareness at all. She felt extremely aggrieved when her own brother covered her mouth as she struggled to pull Nangong Firen's hand away as she screamed at the top of her lungs, "I didn't say anything wrong. The Azura group has already been harmed by them till we're the only ones left alive. I don't want to die, I just want to live on." Nangong Lin's face was filled with tears. After entering the tomb of the Ling King, everything was beyond her imagination. Seeing her brother's companions dying one by one in front of her, to the young lady who had been protected extremely well, it was totally unbearable. These people gathered at this place because of the god relic on her. As long as she hands over the god relic, everything will be fine. Brother, so many people have died, don't tell me you still want to take away my sister's life for her, for this vixen whom you've just met once. Nangong Lin's gaze was mournful as she spat out sharp words one by one. She was Nangong Firen's most beloved sister. How could she not tell that the way Nangong Firen looked at Yiqing Luo was exactly the same as the way she looked at Yifeng Ru? Nangong Firen seemed as though the deepest secret in his heart had been discovered as his expression turned green and red. Facing Zi Qianqian and Yifeng Ru's questioning gaze, his face flushed red as he gritted his teeth and berated angrily, "What rubbish are you talking about? Nangong Lin, looks like I've been too lax in my teachings, allowing you to develop this habit of stirring up trouble. When we return to the Nangong family, I will discipline you properly." However, the various powerhouses didn't have much interest in their conversation. What they were most interested in was the location of the god relic which Nangong Lin mentioned. Basically they could confirm that the god relic was in Yiqing Luo's hands. But what they should consider now was, if they killed Yiqing Luo and snatched the god relic, would the Overlord vent his anger on them? Or perhaps if they were to make a move, would the Overlord fly into a rage and slaughter all of them for the sake of his beauty? While everyone was still looking around, trying to see if there was anyone who could make the first move or if there was an opportunity to make a move, the 2 teams of the world group had already left successfully under the cover of Nine-Tailed Fox's large furry tail. The surrounding forces instinctively wanted to stop them. At the very least, they had to make sure that they were not carrying any god artifacts on them. However, they were stopped by one of the Nine-Tailed Fox's tails. Those huge white tails were as big as thick trees. It crashed down with a crackling sound, and the ground immediately cracked open, sending rubble flying everywhere. All the forces retreated step by step. Not only did they succumb to the majesty of the holy beast, but they also did not dare to attack the Nine-Tailed Fox. The Nine-Tailed Fox was the symbol of Dizun. Attacking the Nine-Tailed Fox was equivalent to slapping the Overlord in the face. How could they have the guts to do so? Yiqing Luo, who was protected by Little Nine, looked at this scene with a gloomy and cold gaze, naturally understood why they didn't dare to make a move. This was the majesty of a leader. Once she stood at the peak of the world and was revered by tens of thousands of people, no one would dare to touch her. Even the people around her didn't dare to move. In her heart, a decision started to form slowly. Now that things had come to such a state, there was no need for her to conceal her true ability, no need to act as a pig to eat the tiger. Of course, she wouldn't be so silly to display all her ability. She wanted to display. Chapter 903. It was not only to protect himself, but also to protect the people around him. She looked indifferently in Nangong Firen's direction and said, "You may leave." Nangong Firen opened her mouth to explain that she was not like what Nangong Lin had said. Very quickly he was interrupted by Yi Qing Luo. "I don't care about your matters." As soon as she finished speaking, she indifferently moved her gaze away as if she couldn't be bothered to waste her breath on them. Nangong Firen felt a stabbing pain in her heart. She felt as if a hand was gripping her throat, making it difficult for her to breathe. She treated them as strangers. Nangong Firen closed her eyes and said in a deep voice, "Let's go." Yi Qing Luo ignored them. She had already given the Azura group the chance to leave. Whether they could leave or not depended on their own abilities. It was because of her that the Killing God group entered the bottom of the Ling King's tomb. Of course, Yi Fingru wanted the profound Phoenix ring as well. But Yi Qing Luo gave them a chance to leave on account of the 30 over mercenaries who had died. Yi Qing Luo's vision swept past the surroundings, at those restless powerhouses. There were already a large number of people who wanted to take the chance to secretly chase after Qiao Jin and Baiming Lianchang's two teams. Yi Qing Luo turned her head and stared deeply at the man dressed in a purple robe who was standing among the mercenaries. Dmo Xian retracted his imposing manner and blended into the world mercenary group. Hearing the surrounding people discussing about his relationship with Yi Qing Luo, he didn't reveal any bit of imposing manner. He was quiet, as if he was an outsider. This was also the reason why he, who had such a powerful aura, had not been discovered by the other forces. His obsidian-like deep eyes stared at her the entire time. Their eyes met. Dmo Xian's brows overflowed with a pampering smile. His rosy red lips curled up slightly, his eyes glistening with a smile. Then, he slowly nodded. Unless it was a desperate situation, he would not interfere. This was the agreement between them. It was also the freedom he had given Yi Qing Luo. Yi Qing Luo's matter, he would let Yi Qing Luo handle it. If he couldn't handle it, then he would do it. For a lady like Yi Qing Luo, she didn't depend on a man to live, nor did she hide behind a man to live. She had her own world. It had its own light. What he wanted to do was to protect Yi Qing Luo properly in the process of her blossoming, accompanying her and personally witnessing her becoming stronger step by step. It was enough. After getting Dmo Xian's response, Yi Qing Luo turned around and leaped into the air. The black figure streaked across the sky like a black afterimage, instantly attracting the attention of the big forces. "Don't you want to see the divine relic?" Yi Qing Luo's enchanting voice faintly revealed a bit of chill. Her pink lips curled up into a devilish smile. She spread her arms and floated in midair, the glowing flame fan in her palms stirring up a myriad of winds and waves. "I'll show you the might of a divine artifact." The red devouring flame fan opened and closed at the tip of his fingers. As he opened and closed it, it was like balls of excited flames were moving about in his palm. From Yi Qing Luo's feet, an extremely valiant energy was emitted. The red profound light was accompanied by a fierce gust of wind. Its momentum was turbulent, as if it would fall into an endless abyss in the next second. The various forces were boiling with excitement. A divine artifact. This is the power of a divine artifact. The divine artifact is indeed on her. Snatch it. Snatch the divine artifact and you will be able to snatch the world. All of you go. Kill Yi Qing Luo. Snatch the divine artifact. Kill Yi Qing Luo and snatch the divine artifact. Not knowing which force took the lead and kept shouting, wanting to snatch the divine artifact back from Yi Qing Luo. Chapter 904. Yi Qing Luo half squinted her eyes, as her gaze shot towards the direction where the first voice came from. It was the direction of the Yuqi family. Patriarch Yuqi's heart went numb from this gaze, and a chill ran down his spine. As compared to the other powerhouses, Yuqi family's patriarch had a deeper understanding of Yi Qing Luo. If he acted rashly to obtain the divine relic, he would only suffer in the hands of Yi Qing Luo. Until now, Yuqi family's patriarch wasn't able to guess clearly, nor was he able to investigate how many powerhouses were behind Yi Qing Luo, supporting her. Furthermore, the Overlord's only sacred beast Nine-Tailed Fox was still here, apparently to protect Yi Qing Luo's momentum. It was inappropriate to offend the Overlord and the entire Imperial Palace for the sake of a divine artifact. He might as well take advantage of the chaos to plunder Yi Qing Luo. Not only would he be able to seize the divine weapon, but he would also be able to avenge his son and the Yuqi family's reputation. By then, even if the Overlord really wanted to put the blame on them, who could be 100% sure who had brought Yi Qing Luo away from the chaotic battle of thousands of people? Towards the Yuqi family's dark thoughts, Yi Qing Luo wasn't the least bit interested. She indifferently withdrew her gaze. The red devouring flame fan swept across the azure water ring on her fingertip. Bang! A loud explosion sounded. The red glow on Yi Qing Luo's body shot out boundless energy. The devouring flame fan in his hand was also flipping rapidly at his fingertips, giving off crisp sounds of collision. Heavens! This is a divine artifact. It's the power of a divine artifact. Some cultivators saw Yi Qing Luo's entire body enveloped in red glow, as though she was a nine heavens mystical lady, as they immediately cried out in astonishment. Yi Qing Luo's powerful might was unleashed without any reservations. The red glow was bewitching. The red glow that flowed out of his fingertips was like a dancing flame. It set off her beautiful little face, making it even more captivating. The brilliance of all things in the world could not compare to the brilliance of her. Many low-rank profound practitioners clutched their chests as their heart meridians were shattered by this powerful pressure and spat out blood. However, not a single person dared to speak. All of them stared at the young lady in midair with reverence. No. More accurately, he was staring at the divine artifact on her body. Was this the power of a divine artifact? A 15-year-old little girl was able to directly advance to the Earth Profound Realm by relying on a divine artifact, and could be called an expert. He could even release such a powerful pressure. If they were the ones who obtained this divine artifact, even if Dizun came, they would not be afraid. Although reason denied this idea. After all, Dizun's power was beyond their imagination. But once this thought was planted in his mind, as his desire and greed grew, this seed would germinate, that gaze that didn't dare to blaspheme gradually turned into greed. Seeing the changes in their expressions and gazes, Yi Qing Luo's lips curled into a cold smile. With a move of his palm, the gourd flame fan flipped and created wave after wave of stormy winds. The violent wind whistled, mixed with the bewitching red light. When the shock wave spread out for a radius of 50 kilometers, everywhere it passed, crushed stones flew, and the ground was instantly razed to the ground. In the air, a terrifying and powerful explosive aura surged wave after wave of air waves. It was filled with an austere coldness. This caused everyone to feel fear and astonishment in their hearts. What? Isn't this the divine artifact that you've been dreaming of? Why are you running? Yi Qing Luo's eyes rose slightly, as her tone was filled with thick ridicule. When the various powerhouses heard this ridicule, they regained their senses from the shock. The way they looked at Yiqing Luo was as though they were looking at meat on the chopping board, as their eyes were filled with greed and wolf-like glint. Chapter 905. Immediately, thousands of cultivators, hundreds of powerhouses men, all charged towards Yiqing Luo's direction. Yiqing Luo glanced at the surroundings. After confirming that Xiao Jin and Baiming Lianqing had already brought his team and left according to plan, he slowly let out a breath of impure air. As long as they left, with her and Dmo Xian around, there was no need to fear those forces. Yuqi family's patriarch's order was only for Yiqing Luo. After making use of other forces to open up a path of blood, they directly abducted Yiqing Luo. Thus, he had been loitering around the periphery. As for the other powerhouses, not only did they have to target Yiqing Luo as their target, they also had to guard against the other powerhouses, whether they would take the opportunity to make a move on themselves. For a time, the battle situation was chaotic, but it was also sensational. Outside the tomb of the Ling King, all kinds of profound energy fluctuated, strong winds surged, and the spiritual energy of heaven and earth gathered and overlapped. Tong Ziqing and the others led the remaining Zhao Bo and the other mercenaries to pick up their weapons and began to fight. From the looks of it, it seemed like, just a spit from one person from each faction could drown them to death. But if they were to really fight, not to mention the mercenaries of the world group didn't have the ability to fight against 100. He only said that their group of forces had no intention of cooperating at all. No one was willing to believe anyone else. Whereas for Yiqing Luo's side, she had the help of the nine-tailed fox. There was no tragic consequence of being drowned, as he had imagined. On the contrary, Yiqing Luo's aura was getting more and more arrogant. She had just advanced to the 4th level of the Earth Profound Realm, and the profound chi in her body was constantly surging, as if it wanted to let her vent something. Yiqing Luo clenched her fists tightly and a cold glint of air burst out from her fists. This was a good opportunity for him to test out his new power and see how strong it was. Let's see just how heaven-defying the power of the Azure Water Ring is. She gripped her feather fan tightly as she dangerously narrowed her charming eyes. Her delicate body instantly shifted in midair, bringing along a violent gust of wind as it transformed into a gigantic whirlpool of energy wave that rushed towards all the profound practitioners in the surroundings. Yiqing Luo could clearly feel that her every move was filled with boundless heaven and earth's spiritual qi. The profound jade heart that was being nurtured in his heart felt different from the profound jade heart that he had previously used. It was filled with a sense of satisfaction. His strength was sufficient, and his profound heart jade's compatibility was sufficient. It made the adventurous blood in Yiqing Luo's body boil continuously. He wanted to fight to the end, to the death. Boom! Powerful energy swept out in all directions. Yiqing Luo started with the Shangguan family, not giving Shangguan Fangyi any face at all. The horrifying gale immediately scattered the Shangguan family's small team. Some profound practitioners didn't even have the time to shout out before they were blown away by the strong wind, and their entire bodies were flipped over. At this moment, the group of profounders from the Shangguan clan would never be able to forget this scene. The woman who looked like the goddess of the 9 heavens had a bloodthirsty and cruel sneer on her face. The red feather fan in his hand was like a dancing flame at his fingertips. Wherever it went, no one survived. In but an instant, nearly 200 profound practitioners of the Shangguan clan had become corpses that lay on the ground. Among the corpses, the black-clothed girl was smiling faintly, but her charming eyes were flowing with a cold light that seemed to come from hell. The other forces wanted to rush up together to subdue Yiqing Luo. They all stopped in their tracks. Too terrifying, merely Yiqing Luo, a 15-year-old young lady, and a young lady who had just broken through to the Earth Profound stage, actually relied on her own strength. In less than half an incense's time, she had massacred nearly 200 profound practitioners from the Shangguan clan. Chapter 906. The only one who survived was Shengguan Fangyi. The cultivators from the Shengguan family's forces had died to protect Shengguan Fangyi. Only Shengguan Fangyi was left. His handsome face was stained with blood. There was his own blood, as well as the blood of the guards who had died for him. He gripped his long sword tightly as he stared at Yiqing Luo in shock. It was unimaginable. 2 months ago, the devil-class trash who was only at the yellow profound 9th level, had now easily massacred the people he had brought. Was this really the power of a god relic? Could a god relic really make a waste so powerful? Third young master Shengguan. Yiqing Luo squinted her eyes as she smiled charmingly. Long time no see, I didn't expect to meet you here. Shengguan Fangyi gripped his long sword tightly as his face turned pale as he stared at her vigilantly. You. What do you want? Kill a chicken. Yiqing Luo smiled even more happily as her eyes curved, narrow and devilish. Then, his tone deepened, cold and strange, as if he was the Azura that demanded their lives. Word by word, he said, to warn the monkeys. Kill a chicken to warn the monkeys. Was she trying to frighten the other forces out? Shengguan Fangyi's heart was filled with fear as he immediately turned his head to look at the surroundings. There were many clans in the alliance with the Shengguan family. But at this moment, none of the forces stood out. Shengguan Fangyi was isolated and helpless. At this juncture, the other forces could tell that Yiqing Luo had a personal feud with the Shengguan family. They couldn't wait to protect themselves. How could they possibly get involved in this mess? Their target was the god relic on Yiqing Luo. They didn't want to lose the chance to get the god relic because of the Shengguan family. Yiqing Luo. Even if you kill me, you will not be able to leave this place. Shengguan Fangyi trembled as he watched Yiqing Luo walking towards him. He was so afraid that he almost fell to the ground. I won't kill you. Yiqing Luo's lips curled up coldly as a crafty cold arc flashed past her eyes. Shengguan Fangyi's face darkened. He didn't understand what she meant. Yiqing Luo leaned close to him and lowered her voice, cold and cruel. Shengguan family must pay the price for everything that Shengguan Liuli has done, now. The game has just begun, you still have a lot of time to enjoy the fun of the game. That cold voice drifted in his ears like a ghost. Shengguan Fangyi was stunned. Just as Yiqing Luo straightened her waist and distanced herself from him, her legs turned weak and she lost her balance as she fell onto the ground. The gravel on the ground stabbed into her buttocks. The sharp pain brought Shengguan Fangyi back to his senses. The words that Yiqing Luo said earlier surfaced in his mind. Although she didn't understand what Shengguan Liuli had done to make Yiqing Luo so angry. But, he could be sure. What Yiqing Luo said earlier wasn't a joke. Everything now was just the beginning. Out of the corner of his eye, he caught a glimpse of a slender figure slowly walking forward with her back facing him. His gaze finally stopped on her fingers. Before Shengguan Liuli left, she pointed in the direction of her finger. Was she telling him the location of the god relic? Shengguan Fangyi's eyes flashed. If he could snatch the god relic and obtain its power. The person who became everyone's focal point now was him. It was absolutely not Yiqing Luo's turn to be arrogant here. Thinking of this, Shengguan Fangyi restrained the cold look in his eyes and suddenly pounced towards Yiqing Luo's back. This pounce was filled with Shengguan Fangyi's unafraid of death. His entire person brought along a burst of raging energy, as he swiftly entangled Yiqing Luo. When he got close to Yiqing Luo, his hand swiftly stretched out towards her wrist. Chapter 907. This ring is a divine artifact. Shengguan Fangyi's eyes shone brightly and without thinking, he directly stretched out his hand in an attempt to forcefully remove Yiqing Luo's ring. just as Sheng Wanfangyi's hand was about to touch Yi Qing Luo's ring. Suddenly, a huge wave of qi surged up and fiercely crashed into Sheng Wanfangyi's chest. Pfft! He spat out a mouthful of blood. The divine artifact is that ring? Brothers, let's go. Snatch the divine artifact. All the surrounding forces, because of Sheng Wanfangyi's actions, naturally noticed the azure aqua ring which was emitting a red glow on Yi Qing Luo's fingertip. Once he confirmed what a divine artifact was, those spectators who were watching the show immediately flocked towards Yi Qing Luo's direction. Yi Qing Luo's eyes narrowed as she gave a cold laugh. Her footsteps immediately expanded as her figure swiftly retreated backwards. Immediately after, he bypassed a group of forces that were surrounding him. He didn't forget to stir his vast profound energy with the feather fan in his hand to deal a fatal blow to those profound practitioners. Her speed was extremely fast, so fast that not a single one of the thousands of profound practitioners could catch a glimpse of her. On the other side, Nangong Firen took advantage of the chaos and left with Nangong Lin and the others. Part of the reason why Yi Qing Luo took the initiative to display the power of the God Relic was to create an opportunity for them to leave. Nangong Firen blushed at the thought of this. As the leader of the third-ranked mercenary group, the Gold Mercenary Group. But in the end, he ended up running away in defeat. She even had to let a woman from the Bronze Mercenary Group create an opportunity for her to escape. However, their departure still attracted the attention of other small forces. All of them came out from Ling Ling King's tomb. Although Yi Qing Luo had already displayed the majesty of the God Relic, proving that the God Relic was with her. However, there were many good things in a place like the tomb of the Ling King. Especially for a gold medal mercenary group like this to enter the tomb of the Ling King, they must have something good on them. Since these small forces could not participate in the fight for the divine weapon, they naturally turned their attention to Nangong Firen and the others. Nangong Firen pulled Nangong Lin behind him and fought back with Yi Fingru and the others. The four of them had already expended a lot of energy in the tomb of the Ling King. At this moment, it was slightly strenuous for the four of them to deal with these 100 or 200 low-level profounders. Furthermore, even though Nangong Lin was talented, she had never experienced a real fight before. She panicked at this moment. While the other four were unable to split their attention to protect her, Nangong Lin was being chased by a profound practitioner from a small force. Nangong Lin turned around and ran away in fear. It just so happened that he saw the young lady who was ceaselessly executing her movement technique and flicking the feather fan in her hand, causing wave after wave of profound energy to surge. Nangong Lin seemed as though she had seen a life-saving straw as she directly pounced forward. Yi Qing Luo. Save me. The profound qi in Yi Qing Luo's body became more and more proficient in releasing it. She quickly circulated the profound qi in her body and fused it with the devouring flame fan. The qi waves stirred up by his fingertips became increasingly unpredictable. That imposing aura was like a rainbow, the surging and majestic profound energy spread out wave after wave. Yi Qing Luo's half-squinted eyes flashed a faint cold glint. The cruel smile on his face became more and more obvious. She wanted to release more power. She wanted to raise the entire area outside the Ling King's tomb to the ground. The surging profound qi in her chest pounded against her chest, as though it was about to burst out. Suddenly, a person bumped into her. The profound qi which was accumulated and ready to be released instantly dissipated after this knock. Chapter 908. Nangong Lin's body was flung away and was stabbed in the shoulder by the cultivator from the small-sized powerhouse. She cried out miserably as she fell heavily onto the ground. Yi Qing Luo. Why are you so cold-blooded, at least we? Nangong Lin cried out in pain as she stared fiercely at Yi Qing Luo's direction. Just this one look made the anger in Nangong Lin's heart be replaced by fear and terror. What kind of pair of eyes was that? It was as cold as a venomous snake, without any warmth. Just one look and Nangong Lin felt as though she was in an ice house. Nangong Firen rushed over and killed that cultivator who wanted to charge up with one slash. He held Nangong Lin up with one hand as he looked at the wound on her shoulder with a complicated gaze. Nangong Lin saw that she had someone to rely on as she buried her head into Nangong Firen's arms. But she didn't dare to whimper and complain about Yi Qing Luo's evil deeds like before. They had already settled those small-sized powerhouses, and Yi Fengru, Zi Qianqian and the rest had also rushed over. When they saw the wound on Nangong Lin's shoulder, they frowned. You could have saved her. Nangong Firen gazed deeply at Yi Qing Luo, and for some reason, he had a strange feeling. Yi Qing Luo's pink lips curled slightly as she snorted with a faint smile. I have no obligation to save her. Repaying evil with good was obviously not her style. Nangong Lin's life or death had nothing to do with her. Moreover, if it wasn't for Nangong Lin's appearance, she would have released her profound qi and leveled this steep cliff to the ground. Nangong Firen had no words to refute. Indeed, Yi Qing Luo had no obligation to save Nangong Lin. Moreover, Nangong Lin had gone against Yi Qing Luo time and time again. From Yi Qing Luo's standpoint, she could indeed choose not to save her. But Nangong Firen felt that it shouldn't be like this, even if today was the first time he got to know Yi Qing Luo. Nangong Firen felt that Yi Qing Luo wasn't a narrow-minded person and would absolutely not abandon someone's life just because of a few words of slander and insults. Yi Qing Luo respected every life. This was what Nangong Firen felt during the few hours they spent together in the tomb of King Ling. As though sensing Nangong Firen's puzzlement, Yi Qing Luo smiled as her long and narrow eyes outlined a cold arc. I've never thought that I'm a kind person. My conscience is only limited to the companions that I've acknowledged. Pausing for a moment, she shot a cold glare at Nangong Lin. Don't think that I owe your killing god team anything. Today, in the tomb of the Ling King, the person who caused your killing god team to be annihilated was not me. It was Nangong Lin. The worms were attracted by Nangong Lin. It was Nangong Lin who had awakened the 5 corpses. If it wasn't for Nangong Lin's willfulness, the Azura group wouldn't have lost so many people. Yi Qing Luo dropped this sentence and shifted her gaze away without any warmth, not wanting to be entangled with them any further. Nangong Firen held the shivering Nangong Lin in her arms and frowned. After a long while, she closed her eyes and said, "Let's go." When she passed by the man who was standing afar, gazing at Yi Qing Luo with a gentle gaze, Nangong Firen suddenly stopped in her tracks. Pay attention, she doesn't seem right. Dmo Xian's peach blossom eyes glistened as he lifted his eyelids and casually shot a glance at him. Following that, a deep voice leisurely entered her ears, "This lord's woman, this lord knows it better than you." Nangong Firen was stunned as he lowered his eyelids and muttered, "I've said too much." After saying that, he carried Nangong Lin and left the Ling King's tomb with the other 3 without looking back. Chapter 909. Dmo Xian retracted his vision as his gaze continued to congeal on Yi Qing Luo. His dense long eyelashes trembled slightly as his deep eyes flickered with complicated emotions. His handsome eyebrows gradually furrowed. Dmo Xian had sensed Yi Qing Luo's abnormality from the moment she released the Azure Dew Ring's power. But this abnormality seemed to be extremely normal. Yi Qing Luo wasn't a lady who could stay quietly. Was it because after a long period of time, her ability had increased and the sealed battle spirit in her body was slowly awakening? The adventurer's blood was starting to boil. All these possibilities were possible. From the current looks of it, Yi Qing Luo's performance was still considered normal. Only after the battle ended would he be able to check on her body properly before he could be assured. Boom! An earth-shattering loud sound was heard. Outside the Ling King's tomb, an intense gale was stirred. The horizon was getting nearer and nearer as circles of pitch-black shadows attacked. Gradually, the sound of footsteps that shook the hearts of people could be clearly heard. Dong dong dong, as the footsteps became more and more ear-piercing, the ground started to shake. When the various powerhouses heard this sound, all of their expressions changed drastically. Not good. The beast tide is here. Could they be attracted by the god relic's energy? From this sound, there are at least 100 over magical beasts. The beast tide has erupted. Beast tide. 2 words which made one tremble with fear. Numerous cultivators would rather kill a few more people than to meet with a beast tide. Especially such a ferocious beast tide. Those powerhouses who were fighting for the god relic also stopped their attacks. All of them gazed far into the distance. But a moment later, they saw a huge black mass of magical beasts charging over. Huge batches of magical beasts charged forward. The huge magical beasts ran on the ground, causing the entire ground to shake. It's really a beast tide. These magical beasts' target seems to be the god relic. One of the powerhouses saw that huge mass of magical beasts, and after they surged over, they surrounded the Ling King's tomb, which had been leveled to the ground. There were a few tiger beasts which were at least the size of 2 tigers, as they circled around the Ling King's tomb, sniffing around. Obviously, he'd come for the divine artifact in the tomb of the Ling King. Yiqing Luo squinted her eyes as she expressionlessly gazed at this huge wave of magical beasts, but a sliver of excitement flashed past her eyes. It was the excitement of catching prey. Beast tide. Mo Han Shang's brows creased as his delicate brows were suffused with an inexplicable melancholy. Vice Group Leader, don't you feel that? This batch of beast tide is a little too strange. Yiqing Luo raised her brows and nodded indifferently. It's indeed very strange. No matter how high a magical beast's cultivation level was, it was impossible for its intelligence to reach the level where it could plan these things. Unless there was someone behind the magical beast. Someone was controlling the magical beasts and ordering them around. That person was also after the divine artifact. Yiqing Luo's expression congealed as her sharp gaze swept past those magical beasts. The person behind this must be nearby. There was a large number of magical beasts, about 300 of them, and they were all mid-level and above. There were also a dozen low-level magical beasts mixed in. According to their strength, they were entirely capable of being considered as a small team of 1,000 profounders. These magical beasts raised their heads high and roared incessantly. Yiqing Luo's vision looked towards Little Nine, who was sitting arrogantly by the side. Little Nine understood her meaning as its black whirlpool eyes glanced at the surrounding magical beasts with majestic aura. A sharp cry was emitted from its sharp mouth. Chapter 9-10. However, these 300 over magical beasts, after hearing the sacred beast's warning howl, didn't have any intention to leave. They looked around, trying to find the source of the sound. On seeing the snow-white fur and the huge 9-tailed fox, all of them lowered their heads, as they gave out a submissive low moan. Submissive was submissive. But unfortunately, these magical beasts stood on the same spot, not moving at all, as they surrounded the entire leveled King Ling's tomb. There were several middle-leveled magical beasts whose plump bodies were trembling under Little Nine's intimidation, but still refused to leave. Yiqing Luo was even more certain of her guess at this moment. If it wasn't for the fact that there was someone controlling these magical beasts would have dispersed long ago. Yiqing Luo made Little Nine stop howling, as she squinted her eyes and leapt onto Little Nine's back. Can you sense that there's something controlling the magical beasts? Little Nine sensed everything around it, as it shook its head. Yiqing Luo propped her chin, as she went into deep thoughts. If there really was someone controlling the magical beasts, he would definitely need a medium to control the magical beasts. As a sacred beast, if there really was that medium, Little Nine should be able to sense it. Could it be? Because Little Nine was a sacred beast, and the person who controlled the magical beasts didn't have the ability to control the sacred beasts. Looking at the 300 over magical beasts, there were 10 over low-leveled mirage beasts mixed in. Yiqing Luo's vision shifted onto Shiju, who was still lying on the ground, as its eyes were wide open, as it gazed at her without blinking. She pursed her lips as she waved her hand, keeping Shiju back into the pet space. Shiju was too weak now, so she couldn't let Shiju continue to move. Roar, roar, roar. Shiju and Yiqing Luo had signed a contract, so naturally it could sense its master's emotions. After entering the pet space, Shiju gave out a low moan. It meant that it sensed that there were people around. Indeed so. Yiqing Luo didn't hesitate any further, as she leapt upwards. Her petite body was like a bolt of lightning, as she charged towards the direction of the beast tide. After various powerhouses saw Yiqing Luo's actions, they were unable to ascertain that this beast tide was gathered by Yiqing Luo to escape. Therefore, they also rushed forward like a swarm of bees. The magical beasts saw humans launching an attack, and their bestial instincts were instantly triggered, as they raised their heads and howled a few times, as they swiftly and violently tore those humans apart. These magical beasts were all coarse-skinned magical beasts. An ordinary person's weapon would not be able to harm a demonic beast at all. The various forces were blocked by the magical beasts and naturally assumed that it was the nine-tailed fox who had summoned the surrounding magical beasts to help Yiqing Luo out of the predicament. Didn't the nine-tailed fox converse with those magical beasts just now? It seemed that the Overlord was very protective of this woman. The various powers brandished their weapons, killing the demonic beasts before them. The battle that had just stopped was on the verge of breaking out again. Yiqing Luo had no time to bother about how those powerhouses cultivators were guessing. She wanted to dig out the person controlling these magical beasts. If he didn't remember wrongly, this wasn't the first time he had met this person. Yiqing Luo was as swift as lightning as she followed the response given by Shiju, and in a few steps, she had already passed through the layers and layers of magical beasts. Sure enough, a slender figure was faintly discernible within the group of magical beasts. The black cloak covered his entire body. However, it was not difficult to see that while the figure was slender, it was also petite, and was clearly a woman. At this moment, that woman's fingers were holding an emerald jade flute, as she placed it by her red lips and kept on blowing. Her fingertips bounced above the jade flute, as agile as an elegant dance. But Yiqing Luo didn't hear any sound coming from that jade flute. Chapter 9:11. It really was her. Yiqing Luo's charming eyes turned cold as her figure scuttled and landed in front of the woman. This person was none other than a stranger. It was the high-leveled mirage beast, Childine, that they had met in the magical beast forest last month. When the world group was fighting, that batch of magical beasts had appeared. At that moment, Yiqing Luo vaguely saw a slender female figure. It was the person in front of him. This person controlled the magical beast to follow her time and time again, creating trouble for her. What was his motive? Judging from his attire, he seemed to be a member of the dark forces. But every time she made a move, it seemed that the timing was not the same as that of the dark forces. "You, who are you?" Yiqing Luo's slender brows creased slightly, her voice was clear and melodious, but cold as ice. The woman did not seem to notice her existence and continued to play the flute. Yiqing Luo's brows creased even tighter as she shot a glance at the magical beast which was still in battle and directly made her move. The glower flame fan stirred up a whirlwind as it flew towards the woman's face. The woman flipped her jade flute and quickly retreated a few steps. The jade flute was placed by his mouth again. A clear and tyrannical voice rang out, and a violent gust of wind rose from the horizon. A giant bird beast grabbed the retreating woman with its sharp claws and flew away. You want to use the bird beast to escape from here? Since she had already appeared, Yiqing Luo had no intention to give this woman a chance to leave. Yiqing Luo's 5 fingers moved and a strong profound qi burst out of her body. A powerful red mystic light burst out of the feather fan. The mystic light turned into a seam and directly severed the 2 wings of the giant beast. Yiqing Luo stomped her feet and leapt upwards. The height at which she jumped was exactly the height at which the bird beast fell. The bird beast's wings were cut off, and it let out a mournful cry. The claws that were grabbing onto the woman immediately loosened. The woman was a little flustered, and just as she was about to play the jade flute again, her arm was grabbed by a slender little hand. She looked back and met with a pair of clear and charming eyes. Those eyes were flowing with a seductive light. The black cloak slid off his head. 4 pairs of eyes met, and Yiqing Luo's eyes, which were filled with a sneer, was immediately filled with a sliver of astonishment. It was her. The person controlling the magical beasts was actually her. Yiqing Ling. How could it be Yiqing Ling? Ever since Yiqing Ling's use of dark forces items was exposed in public, her profound jade heart was destroyed and her meridians were severed. She was chased out of the Yi residence. It had been so long. Yiqing Luo had almost forgotten about the existence of Yiqing Ling. She didn't expect Yiqing Ling to use such a method to appear in front of her again. He was clearly a cripple without the ability to move. Now, he had actually become a beast tamer who could control magical beasts. And it was precisely this trace of astonishment that gave Yiqing Ling the opportunity to counterattack. Yiqing Ling broke free from Yiqing Luo's restraint and quickly put the jade flute to her mouth. A bird beast swiftly swooped down and caught her firmly. Why are you here? Yiqing Luo knitted her brows as she stared at her coldly. Yiqing Ling's 5 fingers clasped the jade flute as a trace of ridicule surfaced on her elegant face. Of course it's for revenge. Her beautiful eyes gradually became sinister and filled with hatred. I want to take revenge on you and the Yi clan. I will take revenge on all those who have hurt me. Yiqing Luo's slender brows knitted even tighter. You and the dark forces have made a deal. It wasn't a question but an affirmative sentence. Although Yiqing Ling didn't seem to notice the entanglement of the profound yin qi. But to be able to turn a cripple who had difficulty in moving into a beast tamer, other than the dark forces' forbidden technique, there was no other way. But what kind of existence was Yiqing Ling in the dark forces? Chapter 9:12. Yiqing Ling remained silent. Silence was considered as acquiescence. Yiqing Luo narrowed her eyes dangerously. Was it Yiqing Qian who sent you to the dark forces? Yiqing Qian was able to freely manipulate the profound yin qi, which showed that her status in the dark forces should be equivalent to that of a guardian or an elder. Yiqing Ling joining the dark forces was probably because of Yiqing Qian. She didn't look like she was eroded by the profound yin qi. But Yiqing Luo was certain. The profound yin qi in Yiqing Ling's body was more than enough. Otherwise, Yiqing Ling's meridians would not be able to recover. This beast-taming ability that came out of nowhere should be the masterpiece of the dark forces. As long as I can take revenge, so what if I have to make a deal with the devil? Yiqing Ling giggled, her eyes filled with hatred. Her fingers clasped the jade flute and placed it by her lips as she smiled softly. Yiqing Luo, no matter how powerful you are, facing thousands of magical beasts and those cultivators who are eyeing you covetously, you can't escape from this place. A silent airflow overflowed from Yiqing Ling's fingertips. That airflow lingered around Yiqing Ling's body, circling round after round. The bird beast that Yiqing Ling was riding on quickly flew backward. Soon after, birds and beasts that blotted out the sky and covered the earth came whistling from all directions. These birds. Yiqing Luo's eyes suddenly surged with a strong murderous intent. These were the birds that slaughtered the marketplace. About 100 of them, densely packed, rushed towards her. The one who slaughtered the people in the marketplace is also you. Yiqing Luo's voice also revealed a strong anger. That day, she followed the description of the tea house owner and saw the black-cloaked man. It was not Yiqing Ling at all. Because Yiqing Luo could tell. Yiqing Ling only had a beast-taming ability. Yiqing Ling did not have profound qi or profound yin qi, it was just an ordinary human body. That day, the black-cloaked man had escaped from her and Dmo Xian's pursuit. Yiqing Ling definitely could not do it. Yiqing Ling laughed softly, her fingers dancing on the jade flute, manipulating the bird beast to tear Yiqing Luo mercilessly. It's me, but seventh younger sister isn't as sharp as I thought. She smiled until her eyes squinted. But I used a protector to attract your attention, and you fell for it easily. What? When did seventh sister become so kind? You even want to take revenge for those people in the market? The birds and beasts howled, covering the sky and covering the earth as they surrounded Yiqing Luo, enveloping her. In an instant, Yiqing Luo's figure was already covered by the birds and beasts. Yiqing Ling's eyes were filled with raging hatred, the speed at which she blew the jade flute also increased, her fingertips constantly adjusting the notes. While playing the jade flute, her cold voice clearly came over. Seventh younger sister, you destroyed my profound heart jade and broke my meridians. I'll tear your body and bones to pieces and scatter your soul. The clear cries of birds and beasts pierced through the sky. One by one, they continued to surge towards Yiqing Luo's direction. Qing Luo. Vice Commander. When the World Mercenary Group members below saw this, they cried out in fright. However, they were obstructed by other magical beasts and profound practitioners from other powers, so they were unable to provide assistance at all. Tong Ziqing's gaze subconsciously looked towards the man who stood alone in the midst of the chaotic battle, like a banished immortal. His hands were still behind his back, his obsidian-like deep eyes stared unblinkingly at the horizon. The expression on his face was calm, without any ripples. Tong Ziqing immediately felt relieved and transmitted her voice through the mercenary group badge. Believe in Vice Commander, nothing will happen to her. What we need to do is to get rid of the person in front of us, to reduce Vice Commander's burden. Yes. The 20 or so mercenaries replied in a sonorous voice. Yes, they must believe in Vice Commander. Chapter 9:13. If something happened to Yiqing Luo, Dmo Xian would be more worried than anyone else. Since Dmo Xian wasn't worried, it meant that Yiqing Luo was still fine. A beast tamer couldn't do anything to Yiqing Luo. Yiqing Ling's eyes were icy cold as she stared complacently at the figure that was swallowed by the birds. The flames of hatred and anger were still burning wantonly in her eyes. She blew the jade flute, controlling the bird beasts to burn Yiqing Luo, tearing her apart and finally swallowing Yiqing Luo's soul. Her mood was agitated and restless. Her chest felt stuffy and blood spilled out from the corner of her mouth. She was also at a loss. She blew the jade flute directly as her eyes were filled with a crazy and sinister hatred. She wanted to see Yiqing Luo die with her own eyes. She wanted to let Yiqing Luo's soul never be reincarnated. Bang! A loud explosion that shook the heavens resounded, and a wave of profound energy that was like sand being washed away by a great wave instantly surged out. The birds' shrill cries were piercing to the ears. In a flash, countless bird corpses were blown away. Fresh blood splashed everywhere along with the wind. The sticky liquid, with a fishy smell, splashed on Yiqing Ling's face. Her beautiful eyes abruptly widened as she looked in disbelief at the originally densely packed hundred over bird beasts which had engulfed Yiqing Luo, as they started to disperse. The blood of the birds was like a rain of blood, watering the ground. After the densely packed birds dispersed, a slender figure could be seen, faintly discernible. That simple black outfit, although it was already damaged, but when worn on Yiqing Luo, it had a unique charm. The flame-like cherry blossom embroidery on her arm was like a flame swaying with the wind. The devastatingly beautiful face seemed to be plated with a layer of frost. The curved pink lips gently hooked into a cold arc. The long and narrow eyes were sparkling, as if it carried thousands of beauties. Her entire body was surrounded by a powerful and shocking profound energy. The red profound light was like a blossoming flower, incomparably beautiful. Smashed into pieces. Yiqing Luo snorted lightly, her tone was cold as she looked at Yiqing Ling faintly. Soul scattered. You, how could you? No, impossible. No one could escape the siege of birds and beasts. Hundreds of bird beasts swallowed Yiqing Luo in midair. How could Yiqing Luo be fine, and instead? Instead her bird beast army was annihilated in one move. How strong was the current Yiqing Luo? Yiqing Ling's eyes were filled with fear as she subconsciously manipulated the bird beast beneath her to quickly leave Yiqing Luo's direction. Third sister, didn't you want to shatter my body and scatter my soul? Why are you in such a hurry to leave? Yiqing Luo's lips twitched in disdain. Suddenly, the feather fan opened up and a strong qi swept out, directly blocking Yiqing Ling's path. Following that, Yiqing Luo's figure flashed and got close to Yiqing Ling like a demon from hell. The smile on the corner of her mouth revealed a bone-chilling coldness, relying on the dark forces. It's nothing more than this, third sister, the last form of address. Yiqing Luo emphasized each and every word. Yiqing Ling was so shocked that her delicate body trembled and stiffened. She wanted to manipulate the bird beast beneath her, but a cold thing had already stuck to her neck. Yiqing Luo. Yiqing Ling dared not to move again, gritted her teeth and cried out Yiqing Luo's name. Yiqing Luo's slender fingers pulled out the jade flute from her hand. Yiqing Ling's expression turned into panic and uneasiness in an instant. The jade flute was the only thing she could rely on. Losing the jade flute was equivalent to losing the ability to protect herself. If Yiqing Luo wanted to kill her, it would be a piece of cake. The more Yiqing Ling thought, the more uneasy her heart became. At this time, the bird beast that lost control immediately became irritable. Chapter 9:14. Ah! Yiqing Ling screamed in terror. Her body felt light as Yiqing Luo grabbed her firmly and both of them landed on the ground. Yiqing Luo. What are you trying to do? Yiqing Ling panted uneasily as her pupils constricted and stared at Yiqing Luo in fear. She had fallen into Yiqing Luo's hands and she had no leeway to retaliate. Sooner or later, she would be killed by Yiqing Luo. Why not take action earlier and directly end her pain? As if she had seen through Yiqing Ling's thoughts, Yiqing Luo's lips curled up and directly interrupted her delusion. Third sister, you have repeatedly opposed me, obstructed me, and even wanted to take my life. Do you think I will let you die so easily? She smiled lightly and tilted her head, her long and narrow eyes revealed a bit of charm. Moreover, what third sister should not have done is to massacre the marketplace. The people there were so innocent. It was just because they passed by the marketplace and had a conflict with the Iron Blood warriors. Just because of their conspiracy, a futile attempt to use the profound Yin Qi to engulf her. In order to massacre. There was a high possibility that the dark forces would step into the Nirvana realm. In fact, those people didn't know anything at all. Thinking of the tea house owner who was on the verge of collapse and the stall owner who painted them, Yiqing Luo's heart couldn't help but twitch a few times. A strong anger inexplicably welled up in her heart. Yiqing Luo's cold eyes faintly floated a touch of sullen. She wanted to avenge those people in the marketplace. For those innocent people, to kill this Yiqing Ling who controlled the birds and beasts and massacred the marketplace. Not only Yiqing Ling. And those people behind Yiqing Ling. Yiqing Ling's piercingly cold eyes suddenly turned scarlet. The feather fan in her hand was suffused with a terrifying profound qi as it directly struck towards Yiqing Ling's face. Yiqing Ling was completely stunned by that pair of eyes filled with hatred. Until that profound qi struck her face, she didn't even have the time to struggle and escape. Just as the profound qi struck Yiqing Ling's face. Suddenly, a more powerful profound qi directly crossed in front of her, forming a transparent protective shield. The majestic profound qi suddenly dissipated. Yiqing Ling opened her eyes in panic only to see a purple figure encircling Yiqing Luo's slender waist. That man had a face of peerless elegance. His fluttering purple robe made his handsome face look even more handsome. His long and narrow peach blossom eyes only took a casual glance, but his heart felt as if it had been hooked. However, Yiqing Ling's infatuation did not last long. Because that handsome man was hugging Yiqing Luo tightly. That pair of soul-stirring eyes could only accommodate Yiqing Luo alone. Little Luo, Dmo Xian's brows creased tightly as his 5 fingers clasped tightly onto the glower flame fan that she was about to raise and forcefully snatched that glower flame fan from her hands. From Yiqing Luo's side, a strong billowing airwave was violently moving about. The intense killing intent in her eyes refused to dissipate. Ah, Xian, don't stop me. Yiqing Luo's voice was cold as she struggled to break free from Dmo Xian's embrace. She is the one who controlled the birds and beasts and massacred the marketplace. Dmo Xian's eyes sunk as the strength in his arms increased. No matter what, you can't kill her now. Yiqing Luo knew that if the man refused to let go, no matter how she struggled, it would be futile. She simply raised her head and looked at Dmo Xian's eyes coldly. Are you protecting her? Chapter 9:15. Since it has nothing to do with you, then get out of my way. Yiqing Luo knitted her brows tightly. She didn't like to see Dmo Xian talking to her with a straight face for another woman. Dmo Xian's big palm clasped the back of her head, bent down and kissed her lips. Dmo Xian. Yiqing Luo flew into a rage out of humiliation. Her mouth was blocked as she roared his name. She struggled with all her might, but how could she be the man's opponent? But after a while, she had already collapsed into Dmo Xian's arms. Dmo Xian's eyes didn't have the slightest bit of desire when he was intimate with her. Seeing her misty eyes, he then slowly released her lips. The delicate young lady nestled in his arms. Her pink lips were red and swollen from his love, glowing, as if tempting him to bend down to pluck them. That pair of enchanting eyes were long and narrow, yet bewitching. This was the look he loved so much. But at this moment, he didn't have the urge to lust. Because Yiqing Luo was not normal now. Ah, Xian. The young lady's low voice revealed a bit of weakness and languidness. Her soft and charming eyes gazed deeply at his face. Dmo Xian held her slender waist. His eyes dimmed slightly as he shifted her gaze and asked tentatively, "Now, do you still want to kill Yiqing Ling?" His voice was deep and husky. When it was by her ear, it could easily stir a certain part of her heart. Yiqing Luo's delicate body trembled in his arms. Her gaze followed Dmo Xian's direction and looked towards Yiqing Ling's direction. Instantly, the expression on her face stiffened. The memory of the short circuit just now surged into her mind. Her dazed eyes blinked and blinked again. After a long time, she regained her senses. Her eyes were filled with confusion. Just now, wanted to kill her. That feeling of hatred, that feeling that filled her heart, seemed to still exist, waiting to be unleashed. But at this moment, Yi-Ching Luo could completely feel her own heart. She knew that Yi-Ching Ling was the one who massacred the market. She indeed wanted to kill her. But she absolutely didn't have that kind of strong impulse to dismember Yi-Ching Ling. What was going on? Just now, her heart seemed to be out of control, frantic and restless. If you still want to kill her, I'll do it. Dmo Xian's voice was low as he gazed into her eyes, not wanting to miss the slightest change in her emotions. The pair of charming eyes were startled at first, then she frowned and said, I can kill her myself. Yi-Ching Ling was aware of the change in the situation, and when they looked at her at the same time, she rolled to the side of Yi-Ching Luo's leg. Over there was the jade flute which Yi-Ching Luo had dropped onto the ground when she was kissed till she had no energy left. Yi-Ching Luo was hugged in Dmo Xian's arms, and her mind was still engulfed by that restless memory earlier, so she had yet to regain her senses. Yi-Ching Ling caught the jade flute and immediately blew it. A bird beast descended from the sky and took her away. Yi-Ching Luo's brows creased into a bundle, but she didn't forcefully chase after him. Yi-Ching Luo felt a lingering fear when she recalled the inexplicable anger and murderous intent which she had earlier. It wasn't only because he was in a mess when he faced Yi-Ching Ling and wanted to kill her to vent his anger. Even earlier, when she massacred the Shangguan family's team, she also had this feeling. When she saw the fresh blood splattering and the corpses all over the ground, she actually felt strangely excited. Little Luo, from now on, don't release too strong profound qi for the time being. Dmo Xian's eyes flashed as he seemed to have a guess, but he wasn't too sure. Chapter 9:16. It was the World Group's mercenaries who were dealing with the sneak attacks from various forces in an orderly manner, and leading them to the side of the frenzied magical beasts, making use of the magical beast's energy to settle those powerhouses' cultivators. Yi-Ching Ling originally wanted to control the magical beasts in an attempt to snatch the god relic from Yi-Ching Luo. But she had not expected it to become the World Mercenary Group's assistance. If Yi-Ching Ling knew about this, her intestines would definitely turn green with regret. Yi-Ching Luo nodded her head as she concealed the flames around her. Luckily Dmo Xian was watching over her. Otherwise she would really sink into the massacre, unable to extricate herself. Yi-Ching Luo really didn't wish to have that kind of frenzied massacre and furious thoughts again. As though in the next second, this feeling would corrode her entire body. Old Man Song. Yi-Ching Luo called out Old Man Song's name in her mind. Old Man Song immediately replied her, no need to ask, I've already checked and there's nothing suspicious in your limbs and bones, and there's no presence of profound yin qi. With Old Man Song's words, the suspicions in her heart were all dispelled. There was nothing strange, and she wasn't corroded by the profound yin qi. Then, her temper, why was it so baffling? After we leave King Ling's tomb, find a chance to make a trip to the Azure Dew bracelet, I'll help you take a look. Old Man Song couldn't explain the reason. She frowned and was about to continue asking when she heard Dmo Xian's deep voice ringing beside her ear, what's the matter? Her conversation with Old Man Song seemed as though she was in a daze in the eyes of outsiders. Yi-Ching Luo regained her senses as her lips twitched as she shook her head, I'm wondering if something has entered my body. I'm afraid that the earlier situation will happen again. If Dmo Xian didn't stop her earlier. Her current. That intense murderous intent and irritable mood, was it even more uncontrollable? We'll talk about everything after we leave King Ling's tomb. Dmo Xian caressed her hair as he comforted her in a warm voice, I'm here, it's all right. Yi-Ching Luo responded softly. Under the World Group's cooperation, the magical beasts were exterminated by 200 over beasts and cultivators' corpses. The number of people from various forces had also decreased from 3,000 over to 1,000 over. The entire flat ground was piled up with magical beasts' corpses and cultivators' corpses. The more than 1,000 people were already exhausted. When they saw Yiqing Luo and Dmo Xian walking together, their faces revealed a terrified and unresigned expression. The Overlord had been in the crowd from the beginning to the end. They didn't discover it because the Overlord had concealed all of his aura and formed a barrier so other than the World Group members, no one could see him. He was unwilling to give up the chance to obtain the divine artifact just because of the Overlord's appearance. Yiqing Luo's power made many cultivators want to get their hands on the god relic. All of them thought that if the divine relic was in their hands, it would definitely shine even more brilliantly than Yiqing Luo. Yiqing Luo looked at those powerhouses cultivators, with different expressions in their eyes, as well as those magical beasts which were charging around without a care for friend or foe, killing each other, as she calmly stood still. Even if she couldn't release too powerful a profound energy right now. Even so, she couldn't generate a strong murderous aura right now. But, she could still make the various forces stay away from the World Mercenary Group. So what if he let the various forces know that the divine artifact was on him? Did the dark forces think that she was afraid of this news being spread out? She would make the various forces admit that she, Yiqing Luo, was the most suitable possessor of the divine artifact. I'll take note. Yiqing Luo glanced sideways as her lips curled into a smile, looking at Dmo Xian who was beside her. Chapter 9:17. Dmo Xian would not stop Yiqing Luo's decision. He believed that Yiqing Luo would know what to do. The smile in Yiqing Luo's eyes gradually warmed up as she tried her best to stabilize her emotions. Then, his eyes lit up like torches as they swept across the forces in front of him. You want a divine artifact? Do you have the right to do so? Yiqing Luo's voice was cold and her eyes were cold. The profound practitioners of the 1,000 forces were panting heavily. They were in a sorry state and extremely dirty. The long battle, the anger of not being able to obtain the divine artifact, and the smell of blood in this broken place for such a long time. These profounders had long since become impatient in their hearts. At this moment, hearing Yiqing Luo's provocation, some boorish fellows couldn't control themselves as they retorted unhappily, "What qualifications? You're just a little girl who hasn't even grown her hair yet. How dare you challenge us?" Exactly. Little girl, do you know what kind of people we are? Any one of them would have more experience than you. You want to talk about qualifications with us? To spout such arrogant words at such a young age, you're just relying on the fact that you have a divine artifact. What kind of skill is that? These words obtained the agreement of many profounders. But because of Dmo Xian's presence, they didn't dare to reply. In his heart, he kept urging these boorish fellows who were not afraid of death to speak as fiercely as possible. The girl's charming eyes narrowed dangerously, and the corners of her mouth twitched with a faint smile. All right, then I won't use the power of the divine artifact. As soon as she finished speaking, the young girl took off the azure water ring from her finger. The gazes of the profound practitioners of the 1,000 citizens' force immediately stuck to her finger. But he saw Yiqing Luo's finger tremble and that azure dew ring disappeared from her hand. Where's the divine artifact? Damned girl! Where did you hide the divine artifact? Hand over the divine artifact. Otherwise, you can forget about leaving the Ling King's tomb today. The disappearance of the divine artifact caused countless profound practitioners to panic. Their goal was only the divine artifact. If he killed Yiqing Luo, he would not be able to get the divine relic. Instead, the imperial palace had set their sights on them. As long as they could get their hands on the divine artifacts, they would no longer be afraid of the Overlord. Yiqing Luo touched the profound phoenix ring with her finger, her eyes were filled with ridicule, it doesn't matter where the divine relic is. Now that I have taken off the divine relic, let's see what other excuses you sanctimonious people have. Then, she raised her hand and raised her voice, brothers. Let those so-called experienced and powerful seniors witness our strength. Hearing the order, Tong Ziqing and the others quickly responded, yes. There were more than 20 people, but they gave off the aura of more than 100 people. Facing the profound practitioners of more than 1,000 forces in front of them, they showed no fear. Little 9. Yiqing Luo's eyes swept towards the direction of the nine-tailed fox. The nine-tailed fox immediately let out a bestial howl with its sharp mouth. The magical beast that had lost its master immediately submitted to the majesty of the holy beast, becoming Yiqing Luo and the others' assistants. The two sides immediately engaged in a fierce battle. At first, the 1,000-odd people were still a little cautious, not daring to really attack. But looking at Dmo Xian's look of a bystander, absolutely not interfering in anything. Gradually, there were some daring people who went forward to probe. Dmo Xian had no reaction. That daring person's probing became even more obvious. Dmo Xian still had no reaction. And in this process of probing, there were constantly cultivators who died in the hands of those young mercenaries, under the feet of those magical beasts and mirage beasts. The 1,000-odd cultivators started to get serious. Dmo Xian still had no reaction. Everyone put their hearts at ease and looked at Yiqing Luo with undisguised greed. Chapter 9:18. The Azure Dew Ring's energy was sealed in the profound Phoenix Ring. Yiqing Luo tried her best to control the rhythm and strength of her profound chi release. But when the feather fan in her hands killed the incoming profound cultivators, fresh blood splattered. The scarlet and glaring blood stimulated her heart, and there was still that restless feeling of wanting to move. Yiqing Luo bore with it and didn't let that restless feeling control her body. In just a short while, the blood around her had turned into a river. Those surrounding cultivators who wanted to snatch her god relic, under the cooperation of the magical beasts and her brothers, fell one by one. Actually, these mercenaries in the world group had never killed anyone before. Some of them had never killed anyone before. They were once treated as trash. They understood the feeling of wanting to live on. Even under Long Yunzhan's leadership, they became stronger and no longer treated as trash as a disgrace. They still didn't know how to kill. When they killed the first person, their hearts were still filled with fear and uneasiness. But recalling what Yiqing Luo had once said, in this world where the weak are prey to the strong, if you don't become other people's food, then other people will become your food. Towards those fellows who want your life, don't be soft-hearted or feel fear. Because nothing is more important than staying alive. Yes, they wanted to stay alive. They wanted to stay alive and follow behind Yiqing Luo, watching their group slowly walk towards the peak. They wanted to stay alive. They wanted to protect their brothers and companions to stay alive. Then, only by killing those people who tried to take their lives away. There was nothing cruel about it. Because this was the law of survival in this world. At this moment, the hearts of over 1,000 profound practitioners were filled with shock. These young men and young ladies who looked like 17 or 18 years old actually had such powerful abilities. They were obviously just mystic profound grade cultivators and their actual combat experience wasn't that rich. But unfortunately, these 20 over young men's footwork and body movements were so agile that no one could catch up to them. Even if they managed to catch up to them, they would be blocked by the sudden appearance of the magical beasts. They couldn't hurt these youngsters at all. The most sinister thing was, when they were dealing with the magical beasts, these youngsters silently appeared behind those low-level cultivators and mercilessly slashed those cultivators' necks. By the time their companions reacted, these youngsters had already moved to another direction. From the beginning to the end, Di-Zun did not make a move. He didn't even sense the aura that was helping him in the dark. No, these youths did not need any help at all. Among all the martial arts in the world, only speed was unbeatable. This is a truth. They had only used a set of footwork and movement techniques, but they were so strange that no one could see through them. No one could see through the mysteries behind them and break them. Coupled with their tacit cooperation, the magical beasts risking their lives to take all the damage for them, and the holy beast, the nine-tailed fox, would swing its 9 tails to help them from time to time. That was enough, annihilate them all. Especially that young girl who was like a bloodthirsty Azura. Everywhere she went, flesh and blood flew in all directions, and profounders fell one by one. Her speed was several times faster than the other youths. His ruthlessness was also more direct and efficient than those youths, killing with a single slash. Don't ask why the disparity in strength was so great, why they couldn't even put up a fight. He could only say, if the strength of a team worked well together, it could really rival thousands of soldiers and horses. Chapter 9:19. 20 over people massacred an entire 3,000 people. If this was spread out, they would definitely become the laughing stock of Nirvana realm. How could they tolerate the reputation which they had worked so hard for their entire lifetime to be destroyed just like that? Over 1,000 powerhouses cultivators were only left with 400 over people. Until now, these cultivators were still unable to believe that everything in front of their eyes was real. They had really been massacred. Originally they were disorderly, each listening to their own commands. Now, according to their status in the world, they had chosen the Yuchi family to become the commander. With the various powerhouses working together, although they had reduced the number of deaths, but they still had no way to deal with these sinister and cunning youngsters. Yiqing Luo's feather fan in her hand struck out a sharp blade, directly killing 2 cultivators in front of her, as she leapt upwards. Immediately a bird beast flew over under Little Nine's coercion and caught Yiqing Luo in its arms. Yiqing Luo half squatted on the bird beast's back, as her gaze swept past the battle situation below, as she heaved a sigh of relief. It seemed that the training of the brothers during this period of time was effective. Their learning ability and acceptance ability had exceeded her imagination. Perhaps it was because they were once looked down upon low-level cultivators. Towards matters regarding learning, they were much more serious than ordinary people. Moreover, their unity and tacit understanding was much stronger than what she had imagined. Luckily, the brothers didn't have too many casualties, and all of them only suffered some superficial injuries. Yiqing Luo's gaze swept around, as she saw Yuchi family's patriarch who was standing among the crowd, trying his best to command everyone to fight. As though he had sensed her gaze, or perhaps Yuchi family's patriarch had always been paying attention to her direction. Coincidentally, he raised his eyes, and met her gaze. 4 pairs of eyes met, as Yiqing Luo's lips curled into a bloodthirsty cold arc. Her devastatingly beautiful face was stained with a few drops of blood stains. Coupled with this coquettish cruel smile, there was a different kind of charm. Yuchi family's patriarch's heart shook fiercely, as he completely froze. In the crowded and chaotic battlefield, he was pushed slightly by someone, and his whole body staggered and fell backwards. Luckily the guards beside him reacted in time to support him. Otherwise, Yuchi family's patriarch's loss of composure would become a joke again. His heart contracted, as his eyes widened in astonishment, as cold sweat started to flow. After returning last month, in less than 24 hours, Yuchi Ping died silently at home. Moreover, his death was miserable, as if all of his vitality had been sucked out, leaving behind only a withered corpse. This matter caused Patriarch Yuchi to be somewhat vigilant. Yuchi Peng's death was too strange. It was so strange that the Yuchi family head had already started to suspect that Yuchi Peng had really made a deal with the dark forces. Regarding the news of Yuchi Peng's death, he had been hiding it from the outside world. He more or less believed what Yiqing Luo said earlier. Because Duke Jing, who would often come to the Yuchi residence to hang around, ever since that day when he returned, he had never returned to the Yuchi residence. It was very likely that he had already been poisoned. But of course they couldn't eliminate the possibility that his son, or Duke Jing, whose life or death was unknown, might have been killed by Yiqing Luo and wanted to push the blame to the dark forces. This young lady named Yiqing Luo. It wasn't something he could resist at all. Just as the Yuchi patriarch was about to leave, a cold wind suddenly blew behind him. Immediately, 10 black-clothed men descended from the sky, blotting out the sky and covering the earth. The black attire of the assassin was wrapped tightly around his head, revealing only a pair of sinister and cold eyes. Chapter 920. Only. But Yiqing Luo could see the darting black airflow from these killers' eyes. These weren't killers at all. They were people from the dark forces who used the identity of Assassin Hall's killers to conceal their real identities. She had not expected that the dark forces would actually trigger 10 of them at once. Did they really think that by using the identity of Assassin Hall's killers, they could deceive everyone? These dark forces' target was her profound jade heart or god relic. Or both? Guardian, she is dead. The leader of the killers swept his gaze across the surroundings and sensed the aura of the dead from the dark forces in the air as he was filled with impatience as he muttered unhappily. He's dead, yet he still summoned us over. We thought there was some important mission when we saw the blood summon. What a disappointment. Guardian, she. Yiqing Luo thought carefully for a moment and immediately reacted. Wasn't he that black-robed man who told them most of the dark forces' information? It looked like when that guardian she was conversing with them, he had also executed the dark forces' forbidden art, blood summon, to summon these black-robed men who were disguised as killers. In this way, Guardian Ing and Elder Xiong were the first batch of dark forces to enter King Ling's tomb. Whereas Shengguan Liuli was the second batch. Following behind Shengguan Liuli was Guardian Shi and that so-called Lord. Since these dark forces people were already here, naturally they wouldn't intend to return empty-handed. That leader quickly understood the remnant message that Guardian Shi used his thoughts to convey to the dark forces before he died. Knowing that the god relic and profound jade heart were in Yiqing Luo's hands, he immediately waved his hand and attacked Yiqing Luo, preparing to end the battle quickly. This batch of 10 people's ability was obviously extraordinary. They should belong to the dark forces guardian party. Without any explanation, they directly started the battle. Yiqing Luo sat on the bird beast and almost fell onto the ground. Luckily she reacted in time as she speedily leapt up and dodged the black-robed man's attack. That bird beast only had time to cry out miserably as it turned into dregs. Yiqing Luo retreated back to her brothers as her expression turned grave. Vice Group Leader, those people. Their abilities are so strong. Mo Han Shang's handsome brows were masked with an indescribable complicated emotion. Tong Ziqing nodded slightly as her expression congealed. Indeed, such a strong imposing manner. These 10 people were obviously different from the profounders from the various powers. An aura that seemed to originate from hell emanated from their bodies. It was extremely dangerous, so dangerous that it was terrifying. Yiqing Luo nodded her head as her brows creased tightly, her eyes were as deep as water. She felt it too. These 10 people from the Dark World were definitely not lower than the Guardian Elders in the Dark World. This was especially true for the leader. His aura was so strong that even Yiqing Luo was unable to see through his profound chi fluctuations. It was as if there was an invisible mysterious ripple on his body that was released along with his every move. If you don't want to suffer, then obediently hand over the divine tool and profound heart jade. The hoarse voice of the black-robed leader resounded. Why are the assassins from your Hall of Assassins here to join in the fun? The divine weapon is ours. Who do you think you are? Some profound practitioners had long since suppressed their anger in their hearts. At this moment, he saw that the Hall of Assassins also wanted a share of the loot. And it only appeared when only 400 of their 3,000 people had died. No one could stand it. The profound practitioner had only just taken a single step forward. Chapter 9:21. Blood and brain matter splattered, and under the sky full of blood, it was extremely disgusting. Everyone's vision followed the direction of the palm wind. The leader retracted the hand that he had used to send out the palm wind. Vicious. Too vicious. His attack was swift and merciless. It was this murderous aura which made these cultivators who were used to killing, not dared to say a single word. The leader saw that the surroundings had quietened down and immediately shot his venomous gaze towards Yiqing Luo, or, you can choose to leave with me obediently. If I'm happy with your cooperation, I can consider leaving those burdens of yours an intact corpse. These words were simply arrogant to the extreme. The various powerhouses cultivators were all shocked. Since when did the killers from the Hall of Assassins have such guts? 20 over mercenaries' hearts were filled with anger as they pouted and wanted to reply. But it was stopped by Yiqing Luo's hand. Yiqing Luo's brows creased coldly as she met with that pair of sinister and eerie eyes. There wasn't any fear in her, but instead she gave a smile. Have you people from the Guardian Party always been so arrogant and condescending? Law Protector Party, these 3 words came out. Yiqing Luo obviously saw the astonishment and vigilance in that black-robed leader's eyes. Young lady, it's indeed rare for you to have such guts at your age. The black-robed leader's eyes sunk as he gave a sly sneer. After a pause, that sneer turned gloomy and sinister, but guts should be placed on the right person. For example, me, that is seeking death. The moment his words fell, the black-robed leader had already launched his attack. Both his palms raised up as he struck out horizontally with his palm wind. Rumble, the strong airwave raised the sky full of dust and gravel. Yiqing Luo's surroundings had sunk into a hurricane. This gush of strong energy made Yiqing Luo slightly stunned. She could even feel that when the hurricane blew, it lifted her clothes and hit her skin with a piercing pain. The dark forces were indeed the dark forces which made people tremble with fear. Such a powerful person, who also possessed a heaven-defying forbidden skill to protect himself, if he really existed in the Nirvana realm, then this realm would never be at peace. Yiqing Luo transmitted her voice into the mercenary group badge, as she said softly, "Deal with them carefully. These people are from the dark forces. If you really can't win them, just escape first." After he finished speaking, he suddenly opened the glowing flame fan in his hand and faced the hurricane, sweeping away a wind blade. The bewitching red light was dazzling. It forcefully tore a hole in the hurricane. Yiqing Luo didn't have any intention to stop as her figure did a somersault in mid-air and the feather fan in her hands launched several ferocious attacks. The silver threads were like venomous snakes sticking out their scarlet tongues as they shot forward. That black-robed leader didn't expect Yiqing Luo's reaction to be so fast. In such a short period of time, he dodged his attack and even retaliated. The black-robed leader's eyes were filled with admiration for Yang Kai's talent. As expected of the girl that his lordship has taken a liking to. Her aptitude is indeed astonishing. The black-robed leader's head tilted slightly and the 9 black-robed men behind him immediately swarmed up. The World Mercenary Group's mercenaries immediately went up to resist the 9 men's attack. When the various powerhouses saw this, they immediately wanted to butt in. But they heard several tens of magical beasts howling as their huge bodies blocked those powerhouses' cultivators. The black-robed leader's eyes rose slightly as his penetrative gaze instantly turned sharp. His palm wind flipped once again as streams of palm wind were ferocious and sharp. Yiqing Luo was separated from a distance away, but she could still clearly feel the strong airwave pouncing onto her face. She subconsciously opened her feather fan as the red profound light turned into a protective cover. Bam! You're tuning into the LoveLore Library YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.